Chapter 1. The Third Makuzaimusha. Kanahagakure. The village of Kanahagakure was like any ordinary village. Villagers, merchants, farmers, ninjas, giant frogs. Okay, maybe it's not like any other ordinary village. Kanahagakure is one of the 5 great ninja villages. Though there are other hidden villages, none of them are considered as great as these. In these villages, ninjas, weapons, and chakra-based techniques are common. However, Kanahagakure has one thing that isn't as common, a jinchuriki. In a dark alley, inside of Kanahagakure, lay a boy. Silent tears ran from his dead blue eyes. His normally spiky blonde hair was matted down with blood. Odd whisker marks adorned his face, 3 on each cheek. His clothes are ripped and torn, also stained with the red lifeblood. This was the 3rd time this week that he was in this position, and it was only Tuesday. He started to lift himself off the ground. A smile adorned his face. An odd chuckle came from his mouth. He rose himself up off the ground and limped back to his small apartment. He would be late for class, but why would he care? No one else ever did. Naruto's apartment. Naruto reached his apartment and looked around with a sigh, the smile still on his face. It was a mess. Broken pieces of wood were everywhere. The carpet was stained with blood, as were the walls. Blood wasn't the only thing that stained the walls, though. Black paint covered the normally white walls. There were a number of things on these walls ranging from and to. Die fox. Demon bastard. You will burn. Paper was also glued to the wall, in an odd and unorganized manner, as if the person who placed it there wanted to make the apartment look worse than what it already did look like. The papers read, "How to kill a demon fox." Then drawings, with a blonde, blue-eyed boy as the focal point, having a fox tail, fox ears, and whisker marks, showing off gruesome ways of just fully executing the fox child, some ranging to burning at the stake, beheading, and disembowelment. The blonde shrugged and extended his senses. He sensed no one inside of his apartment, though he didn't know why he bothered doing this. The ones who had the courage to attack his apartment would be beyond his abilities to sense. Naruto shrugged and went to the bathroom. He undressed and used the sink to wash his hair and face. After he finished, he once again extended his senses. He shrugged and went to his bed. It was nothing but a torn-up, burnt mattress. He pushed it aside and found the sheet that was under it. He pulled out the sheet and wrestled with the floorboard. He lifted it up and reached inside. He found something that seemed to create a small spark in his eyes, though it left just as quickly. He pulled it out. What he pulled out was a wakizashi. The blade had a light blue sheath with a silver dragon on it. The hilt was black and silver. He slightly unsheathed the wakizashi to reveal a silver blade and very sharp edge. He mused the thought of taking it with him today, but quickly discarded the thought. Maybe I should learn how to use this, he said to himself. He placed the blade back into its sheath and back into the hidden compartment. He reached back into the hidden compartment and pulled out a set of his normal outfit. Long orange pants, a black long-sleeve shirt, an orange jacket with the sleeves cut at the shoulder, finally blue ninja sandals. He looked back into the compartment to see a pair of broken blue goggles. He sighed when he saw them, though the smile that he had since he got up from the alley had not left his face. His sleeveless jacket was left unzipped, showing his black shirt. He put back the floorboard and recovered the area. The blonde turned and ran out the door, not even bothering to lock the door on his way out. Ninja Academy. Naruto walked into the Ninja Academy. "You're late, Naruto," screamed his teacher. Most of the students were looking at him with a snicker. Naruto shrugged and went to his seat near the back of the class. Iruka frowned at the grinning blonde. He noticed the limp. He noticed the bruises on his face. He even noticed the faint scent of blood. "Naruto." Iruka sighed, but broke out of his reverie. "Today is the Genin exam. This year's exam will be the Bunshin no Jutsu, doppelganger technique." Naruto mentally frowned. "My worst jutsu. Oh well, who cares whether I passed or not? I will be calling you to the back room where we'll have the exam privately." About an hour later. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto got up and made his way to the back room, ignoring the whispers he was receiving. "Good luck, dope," someone snickered. "Just give up now, dead last. Why do you even bother? This is your 3rd attempt." Naruto ignored all the words. He just made his way to the back of the room. Back room. Naruto stood in front of his Irika-sensei and Mizuki-sensei. Okay, Naruto, when you're ready. Naruto, still with his eerie smile, did the necessary hand seals. Bunshin no jutsu. In a poof of smoke, Naruto materialized a dead-looking clone. Irika sighed. You fail, Naruto. Naruto shrugged and left. Irika was upset, so upset he missed the smirk on Mizuki's face. About an hour later, parents had come to congratulate their children. Naruto sat alone on a swing, still smiling. Suddenly, he felt a hand on his back. He turned to see Mizuki standing behind him. Hey, I'd like to talk to you for a second, Naruto. Around 11:00 p.m. Naruto was running through the village, jumping from building to building. He was lucky that no one noticed the large scroll on his back. He thought back to what Mizuki had said. Flashback. Naruto, there is a way that you can still become a genin. This slightly caught Naruto's interest, so Mizuki continued. If you sneak into the Kage's tower and steal the scroll of seals, you'll have a shot. You only have to learn one jutsu from that scroll, and you can automatically pass. Naruto simply smiled. The only indication that he had heard Mizuki was the way he looked up towards the sky, as if he were in deep thought. Naruto shrugged. No thanks. Mizuki was shocked. What? Naruto shrugged again. I honestly don't really care. Mizuki seethed inside, but didn't let it show. He had to think of another plan. He smiled. Irika will be disappointed. This caught Naruto's attention. He really wanted you to pass. You two are so alike, both being orphans and all. Naruto thought about it again. Irika was always so friendly to him. He was one of the only people who cared about him, the second being the Kage. Naruto sighed. All right, I'll do it. Mizuki grinned at this turn of event. He looked at the boy, and like always resisted the urge to turn away in fear. That smile, that creepy, eerie smile, always got to people, no matter what. Naruto never lost his wide, foxy smile. I got to get the hell out of here. Okay then, good luck, Naruto. In flashback. Naruto sighed. Why was he doing this? He jumped off a building and dashed into the forest. He ran to a clearing in the forest. No one ever went that far into it, so he'll be safe there. Outside the Kage Tower. Hokage-sama. This time Naruto just went too far, screamed an angry shinobi. That's right. We should take this chance to kill the demon. The Hokage, for his part, didn't waver in his decision. He sent a wave of killer intent out. You will return Naruto here to me unharmed. I'll be the one to decide his punishment. Remember this. Thought his words were barely above a whisper. Everyone heard it. They felt a drop in temperature due to the ice in his voice. They nodded and disappeared to find the blonde kitsune. Naruto, I thought your pranking days were over. Curse you, Erasure. How am I supposed to protect your son? Thought the aged Kage with a sad look on his face. He turned to walk up the tower and find his crystal ball. Deep in the forest. Naruto opened the scroll next to an old shed and began reading. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Technique. Don't see the point of learning another clone technique. Can't even get the simpler one right. He kept reading through the scrolls. MOKUTON Hijitsu, Jukai Koten, would release secret technique. Birth of dense woodland. Well, I can't spend all day reading. This one looks interesting. Wonder what the hell a Hijitsu is? Oh well, probably not important. Naruto mused, not knowing that Hijitsu stood for secret technique, a technique only doable by those of a certain blood. He also didn't know that this technique was only usable by two men, one being the founder of Konohagakure. About an hour later, Irika jumped into the clearing where he found Naruto. He saw that the boy was completely exhausted, the scroll of seals on the floor, rolled up. I found you now. Naruto merely looked at the man, still smiling. I did it. I learned a technique from the scroll. Now I can pass, right? Irika stared at him with wide eyes. What the hell gave you that idea? That's when Irika heard it, several shuriken flying at the boy. Irika jumped at Naruto and pushed him aside, taking the shurikens in his back. Irika grunted in pain. He turned to see the smirking face of Mizuki. He was shocked. Mizuki-sensei, what are you doing? Naruto screamed out, his smile finally fading from his face. Mizuki glared at the boy. Shut up, brat. Naruto didn't even cringe though, something which angered Mizuki. Now Naruto, bring me the scroll. Irika's eyes widened. It was you. You were the one who told Naruto that lie. Mizuki chuckled again. That's right. Why? For my own power, of course. Mizuki turned to Naruto. Now bring me the scroll. Irika turned to the boy. Naruto, run. I'll distract Mizuki. Mizuki laughed. Oh, stop messing around. You know you don't care about him. Irika glared at Mizuki. Naruto, do you know why everyone treats you the way they do? Irika's eyes widened. Stop, Mizuki. Didn't you ever wonder why they hurt you? Why they shunned you? Why they hated you for just being alive? Naruto, still smileless, asked, why? Don't. It's forbidden. The nine-tailed fox. The Kyuubi. It's inside of you. You are the nine-tailed fox. Mizuki said with a maniacal laugh. Naruto's eyes widened. It all makes sense now. He whispered. Naruto, run away. Why do you continue to lie, Irika? We both know you hate him. Naruto, when you were the Kyuubi, you killed Irika's parents. He always hated you. Stop lying, Mizuki. So this is the truth. Naruto's face twisted into his same eerie smile. It all makes sense. Irika and Mizuki both cringed at the sight of him. Naruto, run. Mizuki grabbed one of the large shuriken that was on his back. He threw it at the boy. Die, demon fox. Time seemed to slow down. Irika just watched Naruto from his position on the ground. Naruto will move. He'll move. He'll move. Irika's eyes widened and his heart stopped. Naruto lifted his chin, exposing his neck. Something flashed in Irika's mind. Flashback. Irika burst into the waiting room of the hospital. There, he found the Hokage and a few ENBU. Where's Naruto? What happened to him? Hokage sighed. An ENBU found him trying to hang himself. Irika's eyes widened. It almost killed him. He was just starting to get close to the prankster, the boy that he used to hate, the one who reminded him of himself. End flashback. That was the 4 years ago, the day that Naruto lost his spirit, the day that his heart died. The people kept pushing him closer to the edge, and he finally broke. Irika cursed himself in part. He could have done more for the boy. He laughed himself in front of Naruto, taking the giant shuriken with a sick stabbing noise. Some type of liquid hit Naruto's face. He didn't even grimace when he saw that it was some blood that Irika spat up. His eyes widened though. Naruto, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for not being there. I'm sorry for not helping you more. I could have been there for you. You used to be just like me, the type that just wanted attention, but I let that part of you die, and I'm so sorry. Irika managed to get out before he fell on the floor. Naruto snarled when he heard Mizuki laugh. He continued to smile though, as he walked past Irika towards Mizuki. If you ever touch MY-sensei again, I'll kill you. Try it, nine-tailed fox. Mizuki grabbed his other giant shuriken and threw it at the kitsune. Naruto started doing hand seals. His chakra flared. MOKUTON Hijitsu, Jukai Koten. Suddenly a large root, the size of an anaconda, exploded from the ground in front of Naruto. The shuriken that Mizuki threw was easily deflected. Mizuki was too stunned to move. The large root hit the Chunin in the gut, knocking the wind out of him. He was launched several feet back, being pushed with the root, and he was slammed into a tree. Naruto turned back to Irika. Suddenly a few ENBU landed around Naruto. Naruto, what are you doing? Why did you steal the scroll? Naruto sighed, but it was Irika who answered. It was because of Mizuki. One of the ENBU nodded. He looked at the root that was holding Mizuki in place. It was slowly descending back into the soil. Mizuki was let go and fell helplessly to the earth. MOKUTON, did Naruto? He turned back to Naruto. The Hokage wants to see you. He turned back to his 3 companions. You 3, take Irika to the hospital and take Mizuki to Ibiki. The other ENBU nodded. The captain went and picked up the scroll. I'm sure the Hokage will want to see you, Naruto. Naruto nodded. And I want to see him to Yamato-san. Yamato nodded and grabbed the boy and preformed a Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique. Hokage Tower. Naruto and Yamato just arrived at the Kage Tower in the Hokage's private offer. Yamato-san, while I speak to Naruto-kun, please go call of the search. Yamato nodded. Yes, Hokage-sama. But there is something that you should know dash, Yamato started, but the Hokage just held up his hand. I know about Naruto-kun's MOKUTON ability. Yamato nodded and poofed out of the room. The Hokage looked at the smiling boy in front of him. Have a seat, please, gesturing to the seat in front of his desk. Naruto nodded and walked over to the seat. MOKUTON skills, pretty rare dash. Cut the bullshit, you know why I'm here. Naruto interrupted the Kage in a sing-song voice. The Kage slightly grimaced. Erasure, I'm so sorry. I couldn't protect him after all. Simply put, the Kyuubi couldn't be killed. The Yondaime was forced to seal him. They couldn't seal him inside of an inanimate object or a grown adult. He was forced to do so inside of a child. Naruto nodded in understanding. Why me? Sarutobi grimaced, knowing he was going to hate this part. Sarutobi nodded and went to hit safe at the corner of his office. He opened it and pulled out 2 envelopes. He threw one to Naruto and set the other on his desk. Naruto opened it and read the letter inside of it. Dear Naruto, hello my son. I first want to say that I'm sorry. I know that I'm placing a heavy burden on you, being the jailer for one of the most powerful beings in existence. I know for a fact that you will never live a normal life. Please understand that I had little choice. Kyuubi is coming closer and closer to our beloved village. If I don't do something to stop him, we all would die. I know that in the end, that you would prefer me to seal him in your body, and you would like me to seal it in your sister's. Naruto's eyes widened. He looked up at the Kage for a second. I hope you're looking after her. She may just be 7 minutes you junior, but it still means that she is your little sister. You better be being a good big brother. If you haven't guessed yet, your old man is the Hokage, the 4th to be exact. Because of this, I expect you to become much stronger than I was, and you better become stronger. Anyway, I just want to say I'm sorry for everything that I'm most likely missing out on. Birthdays, graduations, the first time you held a kunai. The only thing that eases my mind is the fact that I'm leaving you in this village. I know that you'll be treated like the hero that you are. I hope they aren't spoiling too much. You better not be a brat. I'm sorry, Naruto, but I can't write anymore. Kyuubi is coming closer, and I have to leave, or it will be too late. Remember that I love you so much. Your father, Erasure Kazama. P.S. Please don't become a pervert. Naruto felt something that he hadn't felt in a long time, or at least hadn't let it show through his face. Anger. He quickly ripped the paper to shreds. The Hokage just watched with sympathy. Naruto slammed his hands on the desk. A hero, the son of the 4th. Why the hell didn't you tell me this before? Your father had a lot of enemies. It was best that your true name be kept secret. Uzumaki is actually the name of an ancient clan that died out a long time ago. Not many know of it, so I thought it the perfect surname. Naruto seethed. These bastards. Why don't they see me as a hero, like the 4th wanted? Sarutobi frowned. People have hard times dealing with their grief. Sometimes it turns into anger. In this case, it turned into anger against a child who in fact saved the village, maybe the world. Naruto was still seething. Why wasn't I told that I had a sister? Sarutobi frowned. The 3rd handed him the other envelope. When he opened it, he noted that the letter had multiple tear stains on it. Dear Naruto, I want to say that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't begin to express my sorrow. Your father is a silly idealist. I, on the other hand, am a realist. I know that the people won't see you as anything but the Kyuubi incarnate. Erasure just condemned you to a life of hatred. But I didn't want to damn my other child to such a punishment, so I've decided to send her away. What you don't know about me is that I was the daughter of a lord of Fire Country. I'm hoping that under my father's and mother's care, she'll grow up to become a strong ninja. I'm hoping that you'll become strong too. You're probably wondering why I'm not there holding your hand through your whole ordeal. Because of the constant skirmishes with the Kyuubi, I wasn't receiving the best of care at the hospital. I contracted a deadly disease during childbirth that affects pregnant women. Unfortunately, at the time, the only woman who could help me was months away from Konohagakure. I made this decision at my last moments. I honestly don't know what else to tell you. I never thought that I'd be damning one of my own children to save another. I'm sorry, my dear Naruto. Your loving mother. Kizuna Ryu. Naruto just ripped the letter apart as well, anger welling up in his eyes. She was supposed to come back this year, to become a Chunin, but she was held back by her grandfather. He wanted her to finish learning the Ryu clan style of fighting before she left. Supposedly she'll come within a year. Naruto smiled and looked straight at the Kage. I hate you. You know that, right? I hate you, my father, my mother, my sister, my grandparents, and this whole damn village. For all I care, you can all burn in hell. Sarutobi felt like he was hit in the heart by a rusty dagger. He thought for a long time. Naruto, I have a deal for you. Chapter 2, Deals and Dreams. All right. See you later, bro, said an excited Konohamaru as he ran off. Naruto just nodded in goodbye. Konohamaru had been bugging Naruto to teach him some ninja skills for a while, since morning when he punched Konohamaru, even though he was warned that the younger boy was the grandson of the third. Eventually, Ebisu, Konohamaru's private trainer, came and tried to pull the boy away from the young kitsune. Something about the whole situation pissed Naruto off, so he showed off his new jutsu. Luckily, for Naruto, the trio was conveniently close to the hot springs, so Naruto used MOKUTON Hijitsu, Jukai Koten, to launch the special trainer into the woman's side of the hot springs. The younger boys haven't heard from him since. Naruto sighed and walked back to his apartment. Whenever he received a hard glare, he returned it with his wide smile, which seemed to piss off the person who was glaring at him. When he returned to his apartment, he noticed something upon the dirty counter. He walked over to find 2 small scrolls. There was a sticky note on top that read, "To the new Mokuzamasha. From, wouldn't you like to know?" He sighed. It was the Hokage, or it was Yamato. At the moment, Naruto didn't really care. He opened the first. Mokuton, Shichuka no Jutsu, would release. For Pillar's House technique. The idea of a new jutsu interested Naruto, but the fact that it was an Inouen combat jutsu made Naruto less enthusiastic. He opened the other one. Bunshin no Jutsu. To say Naruto was pissed would be an understatement. It was just a clone technique scroll with dozens of notes over it. Naruto sighed, but decided to worry about it later. He left to go to sleep. Early next morning, Naruto got up and got dressed in his usual outfit. He reached down to his secret compartment to pull out his newest treasure. Because of the complicated technique that he had learned during the Mizuki ordeal, the Hokage decided to promote Naruto to Chunin. He didn't just receive a brand new Hayate like all the other kids either. He received one that belonged to his Irika sensei. Irika had given it to him personally. It was now one of his greatest treasures. The second, and only other one, would be her Wakizashi, his very first friend. Flashback 6 years ago. A monster. A chibi Naruto latched onto the Hokage, burying his face into the Hokage's robes, shaking in fear. They were currently at a festival in another village, in Fire Country. Sarutobi chuckled a little bit. It's not a monster, Naruto-kun. It's just an animal. It won't hurt you. Naruto looked up at the Kage for a moment before turning back to the monster. It was a huge animal, large ears, and a huge nose. That's an elephant. The Kage managed to pry the kitsune off of his before setting him on the ground. He then gave Naruto small nudges towards the great beast. Go on, get a little bit closer. Naruto surely, but slowly started making his way to the animal. The Hokage, along with a few ANBU for protection, had taken Naruto to this place for his birthday. The third had been aware of the increasing abuse that Naruto would receive at this time of year. So here they were, a week before the actual day, hoping Naruto would have a happy birthday for once. Naruto inched closer and closer to the caged animal. Suddenly, it lifted its head and blew air at its trunk, making a loud noise in the process. This seemed to make Naruto's fears go away. Wow, he started jumping up and down. He turned back to the old man. Did you see what he did? Did you see? Did you see? The aged Kage chuckled at the young boy's enthusiasm. When Konohamaru gets older, maybe I should bring him along. Naruto watched the animal for a while long before turning around and running back to the man. Unfortunately, he ran straight into someone. Both of them fell to the ground. When Naruto opened his eyes, he came face to face with a pair of crimson eyes. When he realized what happened, he immediately jumped up. Mistress, Naruto heard a man call and saw several figures men running towards the girl. Said girl was still on the ground. Her long silver hair framed her face perfectly. She had on an elegant blue kimono. She was about the same age as Naruto. She looked at him with a bit of fear in her eyes. One of her arms was in front of her, in a defensive manner, while she seemed to have the other hand fingering an object behind her, a wakizashi with a black and silver hilt. In flashback, Naruto shook his head. Now was not the time for silly flashbacks. He tied the hayate around his head and reached back into the compartment, pulling out the wakizashi. After thinking for a while, he opted to attach the blade to his belt on the back. Afterwards, he left heading for the academy. Academy. Naruto sat down at his usual seat in the back of the room. He ignored the questions he was receiving, mostly things like, "Dobe, what are you doing here? You didn't pass." When he received those questions, he merely pointed at his forehead protector, resisting the urge to flick these people off. Irika came into the classroom sometime later, bandaged up. "All right, everybody. I'll be announcing the teams now. Your Jounin senseis will pick you up after lunch. We'll begin with Team 1. 4 hours later. Naruto was resisting the urge to go berserk. Not only had he gotten on a team with the Uchiha and his #1 fangirl, but their Jounin sensei was officially over 2 hours late to pick them up. Sasuke was scowling, though, like Naruto, he was pissed. He'd never let it show openly. He had black hair and onyx eyes. His hayate was wrapped around his head. He wore a blue shirt with the symbol of the Uchiha on it, and white shorts. Sakura, on the other hand, was at the door, looking down the halls to see if their sensei would show up. She wore her hayate like a ribbon to tie her long pink hair. He also wore a red ninja dress and black pants. Finally, she went back to her seat and sat down, obviously tired of standing. About 10 minutes later, their sensei arrived. Silver hair that seemed to defy gravity. A face mask. His hayate covered his left eye. Other than that, he was dressed as an ordinary jounin. "Yo!" Sakura seethed, "You're late." Kakashi was reading a little orange book and seemed to be giggling. He looked up at his 3 students and said, "Meet me up on the roof." With that, he poofed out of the classroom. The trio walked out of the room and to the roof. "Roof? I wonder if Naruto can see his house from up there." The newly appointed Team 7 was currently sitting together on the roof. They waited for their sensei to speak. "All right, you Pinky," he said, obviously pointing at Sakura. "Give me your likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dreams for the future." Sakura looked confused. "Sensei, could you go first, so I know exactly how it's done?" Kakashi just stared for a second before nodding. "My name is Kakashi Hitaki. My likes and dislikes, dreams for the future. I have many hobbies." The teen scowled. "Only learned your name," muttered Sakura indignantly. "My name is Sakura Haruno. My likes." When she said that, she shifted her eyes to Sasuke and started giggling to herself. "My hobbies." Once again, her eyes shifted to Sasuke and she started giggling again. "My dreams for the future." Once again, her eyes turned to Sasuke and this time she started squealing. "My dislikes are Ino Pig." Sasuke felt an odd shiver creep through his spine every time she giggled, especially that last giggle that sounded more like a squeal. Kakashi sighed. "Now you, the mental one." "My name is..." There was a pause when Naruto and Sasuke both realized they were speaking at the same time, causing Kakashi to raise his eyebrow at the fact that neither of them complained about the name, but accepted it. "I meant the brooding one. That would be Sasuke." Sasuke wasn't sure whether he should smirk in triumph for being the one that Kakashi was talking about, or for being insulted that he was the one Kakashi was talking about when he was lab-led the mental one, but decided to speak anyway. "My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I don't have many likes and I dislike many things. My hobby is training. I don't have a dream for the future. It's more like an ambition. I want to kill a certain man and resurrect my clan." Sakura had stars in her eyes. Kakashi sighed again. "Now you, the eerily happy one." Naruto's smile, if possibly, became twice as wide. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like this village. I dislike anyone who would ever try to harm my beautiful village. My hobbies include spending time with all the wonderful people in Konohagakure." At this point, he was standing up, pointing a finger to the sky. "My goal is to become the greatest Hokage, so I can protect everyone." Sasuke and Sakura didn't catch it, but Kakashi was at the moment drowning in all the sarcasm that flooded out of Naruto's mouth. Shit. I knew I should have kept a closer eye on him, Arashi-sensei. Why did you order Naruto to stay in the village? He would have led such a better life if he were allowed to leave. Kakashi thought to himself with sorrow. He shook himself out of his thoughts. So I have a fangirl, an avenger, and apathetic. Giving Naruto the name of apathetic due to his ability to hide his feelings within his perpetual smile, which was at the moment creeping him out. Meet me in training field 19 at 7 a.m. tomorrow, and don't eat breakfast, or you'll throw up. Sakura beamed. Are we going to do training tomorrow, sensei? Kakashi's eyes turned into upside-down crescent moons, something like that. It's more of a survival exam, to see if you have what it takes to become actual Junins. Sakura frowned. But I thought we were already Junins. To be honest with you, only about 1/3 of this year's crop will make it to actual Chunin. This exam is to weed out the losers. Kakashi stood up. Those who fail will be sent back to the academy. This caused a reaction from all the students. With that, he poofed away in a puff of smoke. The 3 Chunin wannabes quickly filed out of the roof and went on their own way. Naruto's house. Naruto sighed when he got home. He didn't know what possessed him to lie when he was introducing himself. In truth, his only dream was to achieve the rank of Chunin. Flashback. Naruto, you want to leave the village, don't you? Naruto merely nodded. I'll make you a deal. I have 2 students who were granted the right to leave the village whenever they want. I'll grant you the same right if you achieve the rank of Chunin. Naruto thought about it for a while. How do I know the village council will even give me the rank? Sarutobi shook his head. You don't need to worry about them. It will be the feudal lords of Fire Country, or whatever country you're in at the time, that will decide whether you deserve the rank. Naruto thought about this for a while, leaving the village and never coming back. You will of course not attack or endanger the village or villagers while you're off traveling, unless you're only protecting yourself, and should she not come to Hidden Leaf before you achieve Chunin rank, I'll tell you where you can find your sister. Naruto thought about it. The more he thought about it, the more he liked the idea. He'd have to fight for the village for a while, but it would only be a short time, hopefully. Naruto nodded. Sarutobi smiled, though he wanted to frown. Good. I'll prepare the paperwork and call you when it's ready. I'm also passing you for learning such a jutsu. Naruto nodded and left his office. Sarutobi sighed and pulled out a bottle of sake. This should have gone better. In flashback. Naruto sighed and decided to start practicing the 2 jutsu scrolls he received. Chapter 3, Chunin Exams and More Dreams. All was deathly quiet in the large battlefield. A full moon was the only source of light in the whole twilight. Dismembered body parts and blood lay everywhere. In the middle of the chaos was a boy. He was on a large wooden pole, chained down, the tight metal cutting into his body. His blonde hair matted down with sweat, his blue eyes constantly crying. Beside him stood a man. White robes with a flame-like design, marking him as the Hokage of Konohagakure. He possessed blonde hair and blue eyes similar to the boy on the stake. He was holding the chains with one hand, every now and then yanking on them, causing the metal to tighten around the boy and causing the youth to yell out in pain. The boy looked behind him to see the shadows of multiple people. Their red eyes were glaring holes into his face, and their maniacally laughing faces were starting to scare him. It is time, Naruto, said the blonde man beside him. Naruto snapping his head towards him, wincing from the pain. In the distance, the boy saw what it was time for. A giant creature was running towards him. This creature had red fur, red slit-like eyes, and 9 long tails. It was in the shape of a fox. The Kyuubi, the boy realized to his horror. He saw the man gesture to something over at his other side. The boy turned to see what it was. He saw a lovely woman, with beautiful platinum blonde hair and green eyes, holding an infant. Somehow, Naruto could tell that the baby was a girl. She could see the woman mouthing something. Goodbye, Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened. He turned back to the beast before him. It was no more than a few meters away from him. Naruto turned back towards the man. The man looked at the boy with sympathy. I'm sorry, Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened in shock when he heard the beast roar. He turned just in time to see himself devoured by the large maw of the monster. Ah! Naruto threw himself out of his bed. He was panting and covered with sweat. He took a few minutes to steady himself before reaching down and fingering his navel, the place where the beast was sealed. He sighed and looked at the clock. It was almost time to go. He got up and got dressed. As he was doing so, he nearly hurled at the sight of his orange jackets. Unfortunately, he couldn't buy anything else. No one would sell to him. He decided that cutting off the sleeves and the white collar would make the jacket look a little bit better. So that's what he did about a year ago. Once dressed, he picked up the same wakizashi and hayate, putting both on, and left. Training Field 19. Naruto arrived, wearing the same eerie smile, which was easily fueled by pissed of villagers at the training field. He noticed Sasuke was already there. Neither really acknowledged the other. Naruto went to sit by a tree. Sasuke was leaning against another one. About 10 minutes later, right on time, Sakura showed up. "Hey Sasuke, after training, would you like to go eat with me somewhere?" "No." Sakura, defeated, went to go sit down next to her own tree. The trio waited 3 hours before Kakashi decided to grace them with his presence. "Yo!" Ignoring the scream from Sakura and avoiding the kunai thrown by the mental one dash, the one with the eerie smile. "I'm glad you're enthusiastic to begin, Naruto, but please wait till I explain the rules," he said with a careless smile. The blonde, however, had a smile on his face that would make most well-trained ninjas want to wet themselves, but not Kakashi. "Okay," he said as he placed a timer on a stump and pulled out 2 bells. "You have until noon to get a bell from me. Those who get a bell will be the ones who stay. Anyone who doesn't receive a bell will be sent back to the academy. Oh, and if you don't come at me with the intent to kill, you won't get the bell," he said in a nonchalant manner. The trio tensed at this revelation. Sakura was the one that spoke. "Wait, so only 2 of us will pass?" Kakashi smiled. "Of course not. Only 2 of you has the chance to pass. If none of you get a bell from me by the time the alarm rings, all of you go back to the academy. I might get separated from Sasuke-kun," thought a distressed Sakura. "What the hell is the point of putting us in 3-man teams then, if they're just going to separate us? Damn it. I can't be sent back to the academy. Not if I'm ever going to kill that man," thought an irritated Sasuke. Sakura's eyes widened at this. Naruto looked odd. "Wait, so this test is pretty much only weeding out the weaklings?" Kakashi nodded. Naruto was stunned. "Then, why?" Naruto started to say, but voiced out his question in his head. "Why the hell did they put us into teams? They could have just done this at the academy. Why would they waste the time in putting us in balanced teams?" Kakashi noticed the blonde's confusion and grinned inside. Is he figuring it out? He decided to have some fun, though. The clock is ticking. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts when Kakashi said this. The teens quickly jumped from the field and into the trees. Naruto noticed, from his hiding spot up in the trees, that Kakashi hadn't moved an inch. He decided to make the first move. Naruto jumped out of his hiding spot and into the field. Kakashi noticed him. "You know, you're a little bit weird." Naruto smirked. "You can't stop me. I'm going to become Hokage." Kakashi smiled and reached into his pockets. He pulled out his orange book and started reading. "Go ahead." Naruto ran at the Kakashi, screaming his head off, fist raised ready to punch. Kakashi was only half watching Naruto for about a second when he noticed something odd. He looked up to see the blonde still running at him. -1 point for not jumping closer. He tried to figure out what was wrong. Whilst drowning out the blonde's yells, Kakashi's eyes suddenly widened. Footsteps. He doesn't have any footsteps. Bunshin no jutsu. Naruto jumped at Kakashi, the boy's body fading through the adults. Kakashi then saw what was behind the boy, a large root, coming straight at him. The large root slammed into Kakashi's chest and slammed him into a tree. Naruto smirked from his hiding place. However, when he saw Kakashi turn into a log, he seethed on the inside, didn't let it show in his face. Sasuke was surprised. When did that dope get that move? Kakashi stood somewhere in the trees. So I guess the rumors are true. He can use MOKUTON jutsu. He turned towards the log that got slammed by the root. That could have been painful. Good thing I used Kawarimi in time. Good distraction, though. Perfect execution. I'll give him back his point. Kakashi looked down and saw Sakura hiding in the bushes. Let's see just how good she is. Sakura was a little on edge. She just saw a giant root almost impale her sensei, and Naruto preformed a bunshin. How could he have learned that technique? He just failed doing it a few days ago. Sakura, said a wounded voice. Sasuke-kun. Sakura quickly started crawling towards the voice. After she exited the bushes, she saw something that made her heart stop. Sasuke was there, impaled with kunai and shuriken. He was bleeding. Sakura-chan. Ah-h-h-h-h-h-h-h-h-h-h-h, screamed the girl before passing out. Up in the trees. Maybe that was a little too far. Oh well, can't do anything about it now. He jumped back into the clearing, book in hand. Suddenly, he heard something coming from behind him. Shurikens. Kakashi quickly sidestepped them. However, the shuriken cut a string that was behind Kakashi, triggering a trap. A giant log was launched from the trees, going straight at the Jounin. He quickly sidestepped it as well. He turned around just in time to see Sasuke throw a punch, which was blocked. Sasuke then did a backflip, kicking Kakashi at the same time, which was also blocked. Using this opportunity, Sasuke made a grab for the bells. Kakashi quickly jumped back though. He's stronger than the others. If I try reading Ica Paradise, he may actually get a bell. Damn it. So close. Sasuke started doing hand seals. Katan, Gokaku no Jutsu, Fire Release, Grand Fireball Technique. Sasuke breathed out a fireball, scorching the area that Kakashi was in. When he was finished, he noticed that where the Jounin stood was a burnt log. Damn it. Suddenly a hand grabbed on of Sasuke's legs and pulled him under. He was pulled until he was buried up to his neck. Kakashi appeared before him. Naruto watched this from his hiding spot. I wonder. Kakashi walked away from Sasuke and jumped into the trees. The Uchiha seething. Suddenly Sakura ran into the training field. She immediately noticed Sasuke's dismembered head. The head blinked a few times at the girl. Ha. From his spot in the forest. What the hell is she screaming about this time? About 30 minutes later, Sasuke managed to dig himself out, just in time for Sakura to wake up. Sasuke-kun, you're all right. I'm far from all right. I was so close to getting a bell, damn it. Sasuke said as he jumped into the trees. Wait, Sasuke-kun. She was about to jump after him when she spotted something shining in the corner. Is that a bell? He must have dropped it. Sakura ran to get the bell. However, she was suddenly raised high into the air when her foot was caught in a rope. Sakura, if it's obviously a trap, don't pick anything up, Kakashi said with a bored expression as he picked up the bell. He looked back up at Sakura. You must look underneath the underneath, he said. Unfortunately, he didn't notice what was underneath him. A sapling was making itself out of the ground from underneath him. It quickly started wrapping itself around his legs and pulled the Jounin under. How's that for looking underneath the underneath? Kakashi heard a certain fox boy say from the forest. Okay, it's all fun and games until someone starts ripping off my techniques. With that, Kakashi puffed away in smoke. A clone, thought a discouraged blonde. Suddenly, the alarm rang. Damn it. The trio ran off after Kakashi used a kunai to release Sakura from the trap. He quickly tied Sakura to a pole, ignoring Naruto muttering something about S&M pervert. I'm proud to say that none of you will be going back to the academy. The youngsters smiled at this. Instead, you're going to be dropped from the ninja program. What? Screamed Sakura. The other two looked about ready to scream, though you couldn't really tell with Naruto. You don't have what it takes to become ninja. Tell me, what is the point of being put in a 3-man squad? Naruto answered, teamwork. Sasuke's eyes widened. The bells were meant to throw us off. Exactly. Sasuke, you think the other two will hold you back, so you don't bother working with them. Sakura, you're too busy worrying about Sasuke to think about anything else. And Naruto, you don't even care enough to ask your teammates to help. In the ninja world, those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their teammates are worse and scum. He went to a slab of stone on the ground. This stone contains the names of the ninja of Konohagakure, the ones that fell in battle. Kakashi lowered his head for a moment. I'm going to give you one last shot. You two can eat the lunches I brought. pointing to Sasuke and Naruto. But Sakura doesn't get any. If either of you feed her, you fail. I make the rules, remember that. With that, Kakashi disappeared. Naruto and Sasuke each opened a bento. They paused when they heard Sakura's stomach growl. They both sighed and held up the bento for her. What? She asked. Just eat something. We're going to need you to help, and you're going to need to be at full strength, Sasuke. Just need you to be at full strength until we pass this exam. Naruto? Sakura started tearing up. Sasuke and Naruto. Suddenly, the three heard an explosion appear in front of them. What did I tell you? I told you not to feed her. Sasuke's eyes widened a bit, but he spoke first, with a smirk. Since we disobeyed your rules, it means that we are scum. Naruto spoke next, with his perpetual smile. But those who abandon their teammates are worse than scum. Sakura, still teary, found courage as her teammates spoke. We're a team. We help each other out. Lightning started flashing across the sky, and dark clouds started spreading. But just as quickly, they all disappeared to reveal the sunny sky. You all pass. The boys smirked. Sakura was on the brink of tears. Team 7 begins its first mission tomorrow. Naruto's apartment. Naruto arrived home and quickly went to bed. It was a long day. After the Chunin exam, they were forced into so many things via Kakashi. In his dreams, Naruto found himself in a damp sewer. Walking, just walking. This sewer was like a labyrinth. It seems like he'd been walking for hours. He eventually came upon a giant door. They opened for him, as if they were waiting for him, and he made his way through. He found a gigantic jail cell, with a paper with the kanji 4 seal on it. Come closer, child. Naruto did as commanded. He saw through the bars and pair of red slit-like eyes and sharp pointy teeth. Suddenly a clawed paw went through the bars, stopping only an inch from the boy's face. Naruto didn't move an inch. I like you, brat, said the beast with a foxy smile. Naruto smiled back at him. I wish I could say the feeling was reciprocated. Where the hell's the exit? Wait, don't you want to know who I am? Naruto, for the first time in a while, wasn't smiling. Instead, he had a look of pure uninterest and boredom. How many other evil demons are living, for free, in my stomach? Evil. I resent that. You killed hundreds of people. Thousands, muttered the demon. Huh. Nothing. You humans, everything is black and white to you. You never bother to get my opinion, my side of the story. Where's the exit? Don't you even care? This involves you, just as much as it involves me. You're not going to tell me how to get out of here until I hear your story, are you? No. Then speak. Better. I'll show you, he said, gesturing the wall on Naruto's right. It started to flash a bit, then showed a picture, like a movie theater screen. It was a bright sunny day. Birds were chirping, deer were playing, but who cares? In a wide open field lied the Kyuubi. The fox was on his back, being fed grapes, which proportion-wise were way too small to be of any use, by a few beautiful women wearing kimonos. There were a lot more women on his chest, nuzzling and cuddling up to the Demon King. Some of the women were only in their underwear, whistle pressing up against the demon. They were muttering stuff like, "Oh, Kyuubi-sama, I want to have your children," and a variety of other related topics. The scene went on for a while long, when suddenly a man walked up to Kyuubi and the woman. "Oh, great Kyuubi no Kitsune, please sacrifice me in your honor." He started bowing. "Yes, if it is your wish, I will sacrifice you," said the Kyuubi. The man started dancing in happiness. Kyuubi raised one of his tails, touched the man with it. The man burst into flames. The girls started cheering, muttering phrases like, "Oh, how lucky," and "Oh, noble Lord Kyuubi." Seeing the Kyuubi's noble act caused people to start flocking from the nearby village, Konohagakure. Many people asked for the same thing the man asked of Kyuubi, and many more people burst into flames. There were still hundreds of people waiting for Kyuubi's blessing, when suddenly, "That is enough." Everyone turned, in horror, to see him. He had wild blonde hair, evil blue eyes, was wearing a black robes. "The sacrifices will stop," said the man as he slammed his foot to the ground, creating a mild earthquake which knocked some of the villagers down. 1. A woman waiting to be sacrificed went up to the man. But, Lord Hokage, please for once be reasonable. The Hokage was about to reply when he noticed something. A fly was buzzing around his head. He opened his mouth, and a tongue launched itself from the opening, grabbing the fly. Then retreating back, the Hokage then chewed and swallowed, much to the people's horror. He then looked at the woman and backhanded her. The sacrifices will stop today? My word is law. For I am. He got into a very silly stance. The fourth Hokage. He pointed to the people waiting for be sacrificed. Return home and get ready. Today is the day that the Kyuubi dies. The people gasped. The girls that were on top of the beast started crying. Lord Hokage, please. Shut up. Go home and tell your fathers that you need to be beaten. And those of you who are ninja, have 5 minutes to be back out here in full uniform. With that, the girls got off of the monster and left, crying their eyes out. Erasure, I can understand why you would be upset. If it upsets you so much, I will happily leave Konohagakure and never return. Absolutely not. Today you will die. With that, the yellow flash, flashed away. Lord Kyuubi, cried the remaining people as they jumped on the giant demon, hugging him. The Kyuubi returned the hug. This cannot be. I will allow myself to die, so you all may live. No, Lord Kyuubi, chorused the crowd. Please destroy our whole village in your name. As you wish. The battle raged on for hours, Kyuubi nobly killing the people who came against it. No one could kill the Kyuubi. It was just too powerful, until finally Erasure got an idea. I'll use Shiki Fuin to seal the Kyuubi within a small child. Since I'm such an ass, I'll use my own little boy. Mused the Kage. Sarutobi looked worried. But Arashikuin, couldn't we just use Shiki Fuin without the needless sacrifice? Yes, but then it wouldn't be any fun, he said as he grabbed his baby boy. You, pointing to all the people. Artio hate this boy and treat him like crap. I will sacrifice myself nobly and forever remain cool. The ninjas sadly nodded. So it happened. The Kyuubi was sealed inside of the crying baby boy. The yondaime died. The screen faded, and that's pretty much what happened. Naruto turned to the Kyuubi. He still looked uninterested. Now he had a raised eyebrow. What? That's what happened. I'll find my own way out. Maybe if I'm lucky I'll get lost and die. Wait. All right, maybe I exaggerated a little. A little. Anyway, ignoring his accusation, I brought you here to speak to you. I'm here to help you. How could you possibly benefit me? I have knowledge. I was originally just waiting around for you to die, so I can finally be free to go to the afterlife. But after you gained that would trick, I figured this might be more fun. Why should I trust you? That's for you to figure out. Now do you want to talk? Naruto thought for a moment. I'll listen. With the exception of the third and Irika, this guy is the only one who's ever treated me nice. Disregarding the fact that I've only known him for about 5 minutes, it still may be interesting to listen to him. Well, Chapter 4, Journey to Wave. In the vast forest of Konohagakure stood a cat. Not just any cat. This cat belonged to the wife of one of the most important lords of Fire Country. It had run away, for the third time for the fourth time this week. And it was only Thursday. Every now and then, the cat had to get away from that crazy hugging lady. And recently, for one reason or another, security had been ignoring the fleeing animal, causing the woman to hire Neens from Konohagakure to find it. The cat didn't mind though. It received a few hours of peace and quiet. A ninja team would show up to rescue it. Then it would return home for a nice meal and a warm bed. Most recently, the ones coming to pick up the cat recently consisted of this pretty pink-haired girl who loved to cuddle him against her chest, something that he didn't mind, a brooding boy who looked like he had to stick up his ass, and some idiot that never stopped smiling. The cat yawned as he lay on the forest floor. That's when it happened. He heard something jump out of the trees behind him. He quickly jumped to his feet, turning around to see a large root coming at him. The cat's eyes widened as he turned to run away. It didn't get far. The root wrapped itself around the cat, holding on to him by the back legs and tail, and lifted it up. The cat hissed and scratched at the piece of wood that was holding it. But nothing it did would make the appendage let him go. Finally, the cat noticed something out of the corner of his eye. He stops fighting, letting himself just hang, and sees the idiot that never stops smiling. The boy was wearing an orange, sleeveless jacket that was left opened, showing his black shirt, orange pants, a blade strapped to his back, and an odd object on his right wrist that looks like a Christmas wreath, with leaves shaped like regular leaves instead of being shaped like needles. That cat noticed the wide smile on the boy's face and cringed. Finally, the cat noticed something that almost made him wet himself. A kunai was in the boy's left hand. Meow. He can hear the boy snickering to himself as he slowly raises the kunai. Naruto. Naruto sighs and puts away his kunai, just as a pink blur comes in and snatches the cat from the root. The cat clutches onto Sakura, holding onto her for dear life, inadvertently clawing the poor girl. Naruto, what the hell do you think you're doing? This is an innocent animal. The innocent animal, which had his head buried in Sakura's chest, took a second to look up at the boy. The smile he was receiving nearly caused him to soil himself, and Sakura. Sasuke exits the forest, meeting the other two, three if you count the cat, in the clearing. Sakura, being the only one wearing a headset, decides to report in. We found the cat, Kakashi-sensei. We're coming back. They were answered with a perverted giggle. Sakura growled and walked off. Naruto was about to walk off as well, but a hand on his shoulder stopped him. Next time we have to find that stupid cat, I'll stall Sakura, while you check whether it's still alive, Sasuke said with a smirk. Naruto's smile widened. Hokage Tower. Oh my precious kitty. The Lord's wife clutched onto the cat as hard as she could. Oddly enough, the cat seemed to be hugging her back. Weird. The lady left, leaving Team 7 alone with the mission assignment committee. The Hokage, Iruka, a few other teachers that Naruto didn't bother remembering, and a few Yanbiyu. Good job on once again retrieving the cat. Let's see. Another mission. Farming potatoes, babysitting the Lord's grandson Dash, the Hokage started. No, 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 screamed the pink-hair ninja. This caused the Hokage to pause and look up at her. We've had enough of these stupid missions. Can't you for once give us something decent to do? Sasuke and Naruto both nodded. Kakashi mentally groaned. They were bound to complain sooner or later. Iruka stood up, slamming his hands to the table. That's enough out of you, Dash. A gesture from the third stopped him. The Hokage sighed. I think I need to explain the mission rankings once again. You see, there are 5 types of mission rankings, Dash. The Hokage started speaking about the mission rankings, but he was, unknowingly, ignored. Hey Kakashi-sensei, what's the big deal about that book you're always reading? Asked Sakura. Kakashi went into a long, detailed explanation on why the Ika series are works of genius. After the Hokage was done explaining about mission rankings, is about the time he noticed that no one was listening to him. Hey, are any of you listening to me? Kakashi looked up from Sakura and Sasuke's stunned faces. I'm sorry, were you saying something? The Hokage growled slightly. Hey, old man. The Hokage looked up to see Naruto. Would you just give us a decent mission? I need a chance to test how far I've come before the exams. The Hokage resisted the urge to frown. The truth was Naruto wanted to train so he can gain the rank of Chunin, so he could leave. The third, inadvertently, glanced at a picture of the fourth at the side of the room, which went unnoticed by everyone but Kakashi and Naruto, or perhaps the others just didn't see anything odd about it. I suppose something can be set up. Hokage-sama. We can't hold these children back forever, Iruka. Sarutobi gestured to an ANBU at the door. Send in Tazuna. The ANBU nodded and left the room. He came back about a minute later with an old man. The old man stood right in front of the door. My name is Tazuna, the bridge builder. I expect you to protect me while I finish the bridge that will connect my country to the mainland. He took a moment to look at the ninja in front of him and frowned. This is the team that will be protecting me? They don't look that tough to me. Especially that short one with the stupid grin on his face. Dash. He was cut off when a kunai, a thrown kunai, implanted itself into the door, about half an inch under the man's crotch, causing all the men in the room to cringe slightly. Naruto, yelled the pink-haired kunoichi. Naruto turned to her with a smile. Don't know why you're yelling at me for. I'm pretty sure that's one of your kunai. Sakura's eyes widened as she went to check her kunai pouch. She was missing one. Son of a bitch. I swear you. Sometimes you act like nothing more than a demon. This caused all the adults to shudder. Kakashi chose this moment to step in. That's enough, Dash. Maybe I am, replied the kitsune, cutting Kakashi off, smiling widely, as if he had just received the biggest compliment in the world. The adults cringed again. Sakura cringed at the boy's smile. Meet at the west gate in an hour, said the Hokage, holding his head. Naruto made to leave. He reached the door, with the terrified bridge builder pressed to it. Naruto reached down and pulled the kunai out of the door and flipped it over to Sakura, which she caught. May I pass? Tazuna nodded, still scared shitless. He moved out of the way, allowing Naruto to walk out the door, followed by the rest of Team 7. On the streets. Naruto was walking down the street with many thoughts running through his mind, though no one would be able to tell that. Naruto continued to walk down the village, feeling a slight pang of regret for scaring Tazuna. Though the old man did insult him, he shouldn't have lost his temper. It wasn't a thing that ninjas should do. Even if Naruto had no real desire to be a ninja, he sighed. The villagers treated him like a demon, so he didn't care what they thought about him. But he didn't want people outside of the village to start seeing him that way. It would make traveling pointless. He decided to take a shortcut through a dark alley. Naruto walked through the alley, ignoring the 5 men that were stumbling down it. One of them slightly bumped into Naruto. The boy went on his merry way, not even caring. The man, however. Hey, what the hell's this YOEUSSS doing, de moon bastard? He was slurring his words, obviously drunk. Naruto ignored him. Who the hell do you think that you are? Said one of the other men, though not slurring as badly, still obviously drunk. Naruto sighed. It was going to be one of those days. He slowly turned, in time to see the man who bumped into him throw a punch. He was slow, obviously just a civilian. Naruto opted to let himself be hit, like always. Though he wasn't a ninja, he was still pretty strong enough to knock Naruto off his feet. This seemed to trigger something in Naruto's mind. He remembered every dirty look he ever received. One of the men picked him up and slammed him against the wall. Every time he received a beating seemed to flash through his eyes. Another man kicked him while he was down. He saw every time he was ever shunned away from the children his age. He was lifted off the ground again, this time by his collar. This man pulled out a kunai. He saw his father using him as a sacrifice, his mother leaving him to rot, his sister having a happy life, while he was stuck in this living hell. Naruto anger flared. He kicked the man in the stomach. The man keeled over, clutching his stomach, dropping Naruto at the same time. The men glared at the boy and were about to charge. That's when Naruto held out his right arm, the one with the strange plant wrapped around his wrist, pointing it at the man who first bumped into him. Hayashi Shishuku, forest constriction. The plant glowed green, before 3 vines extended from it. These vines were covered with leaves. Thorns started to sprout from them as well. The vines wrapped themselves around the man's right arm, ensnaring it and slamming him against the wall, holding him 3 feet off the ground. The drunken men could only stare at their friend, who was screaming at having the thorns pierce his arm. He tried to yank the plant off of him with his other hand, but only succeeded to have his hand pierced by the sharp objects. He continued to scream and thrash in pain as blood seeped down his right arm and left hand. Flashback. Naruto was currently standing in the Konohagakure forest. He had been looking for this plant for hours, and he had finally found it. The Tsukikanoha, moonleaf. According to the Kyuubi, this plant was very susceptible to chakra. The plant itself had the potential to grow very tall, but it lacked the ability to absorb water and sunlight well. Without the proper nutrients, it was nothing more than a plant with many leaves, a weed to many others. A normal person's chakra wouldn't be able to affect the plant, but because Naruto's chakra was so potent, making him able to create and alter plants, he would be able to use this plant as a weapon very easily. Just think about what'll happen if you mix it with MY chakra. Naruto sighed when he heard the demon's voice in his head. A while ago, the Kyuubi told him that he would be able to alter plants much more drastically by mixing in a little of his own chakra. The demon's chakra, being much more potent than the boy's own, would alter the plants into a much darker form. So the demon offered Naruto some of its own chakra to use whenever the boy willed. It wasn't a lot, considering how strong the demon truly was. It was only about 1/10 of the boy's own amount of chakra. Though it was considerable, taking into account the boy's large chakra supply, the demon probably still had about 100 times more chakra than Naruto had. The problem was that, since Naruto was the jailer, they both had to will the demonic chakra into Naruto's reserves, though it was still separate from Naruto's own chakra. That was when the QB fooled Naruto. He was able to open a link between the two, which allowed the QB to communicate with Naruto anytime he desired. To say Naruto was pissed would be an understatement. In flashback, the men continued to stare in horror before screaming and running off. The ensnared man looked at the boy in front of him. His sweaty blonde locks were currently hiding his blue eyes. Finally, the boy looked up at the man. Naruto smiled at the man. Nothing but scum, all of them. He thought to himself, thinking about the men that ran away, leaving their friend. His smile widened as he used his chakra to tighten the grip on the man's arm. The man screamed loudly and Naruto smiled wider. So I guess about now, I'm pretty much the Lord Demon Bastard of the whole world? The man sniffled a bit at the statement. He couldn't understand it. Naruto never fought back. He just let himself get beaten constantly. He never cried. He never looked upset. He never even lost that damn smile. By the time he fainted, the boy fainted from the pain. Naruto watched the man cower for a bit longer. He was about to tighten the hold on the man. Suddenly, a few kunai came down and cut the vines, letting the man drop to the ground. The pieces receded back into Naruto's Suki Kanaha, becoming nothing but a normal-looking leaf wristband. That's enough, Naruto. Cough, cough. Though you were, cough, in the right to defend yourself, cough, you were taking it much too far. Naruto recognized both voices. One belonged to Genma Shiranui, the second to Gekko Hate. Naruto smiled at the two and walked away. He paused for a moment to look at the man. Oh, and you're drunk at 11 o'clock in the morning. Have some damn self-control. He exited the alley. Genma stared off in the direction the boy left in. Wonder if I can pick up that smiling trick from him. Seems to effectively freak the shit out of people. Genma turned back to the man on the floor. He was clutching his wrist with his bleeding hand and was still crying in pain. He's already suffered enough. However, I will tell the Hokage about the other four. That should be fun. I'll take this man to the hospital. Genma walked over to the man, picked him up, and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Gekko looked off in the direction that Naruto came from. Cough. Wonder what did she think about this Naruto? Flashback, continuation from Chapter 2. The two children looked up at each other. One had golden hair with blue eyes. The other had silver hair with red eyes. The girl looked at the boy, still frightened slightly. Mistress. 3 men came from behind the girl, each of them pulling katanas out and pointing them at the boy. In an instant, the Hokage, who had been watching the whole event, stood between Naruto and the armed men. A second later, 4 ANBU stood behind the Hokage. Oh, calm down, you 3. The voice came from an old man standing a small ways behind the 3 men and 1 girl. The old man had gray hair, no beard, and ceremonial blue robes on. He had 4 other armed men, though their katanas were sheathed, with him. It was an honest mistake. Sarutobi smiled. Yoko, my friend, it's been far too long. Yoko blinked and then smiled. Sarutobi, how are you doing, old friend? Fine, fine. He turned to the little girl in front of him. Is this Rei? She's grown since the last time I saw her. She sure has. Yoko-sama, Reiham, said one of the ENBU while bowing. Yoko blinked again. Is that you, Gekko? The ENBU nodded. Well then, how are you doing? Naruto watched the whole exchange take place. He was curious on how the Hokage knew this man. He was also curious on how Gekko knew this man. Suddenly the back of his shirt was tugged, and he was pulled backwards. He saw it was Yamato pulling him back, kneeling next to him. Since you're with us, you should probably know. Yoko, Rei, Gekko, and these men indicating the men that were with Yoko, and the ones who were with Rei, who finally sheathed their swords, belonged to the Hate clan, a clan that specializes in Kenjutsu, sword technique. Though they live in Fire Country, they don't belong to Konohagakure or any other ninja village for that matter. However, a few of their warriors, like Gecko, leave home at a very young age to become ninja for Konohagakure. He waited a moment for the information to settle into Naruto. The Hate clan live in another village, in Fire Country. It's one of the only clans that the Shodaime, the first Hokage, failed in uniting with others to create Konohagakure. Sarutobi has been trying to recruit them for years, and over the years he acquired a friendship with Yoko, the former clan head of the Hate clan, and Kazuma, the current leader of the clan. Yoko is Kazuma's father, and Kazuma is Rei's father. He again paused for a moment. She's the second child of Kazuma. Naruto nodded, and Yamato stood back up. Rei, who had finally gotten off the ground when her grandfather started speaking, walked over to Naruto. She stared at him for a while. She smiled widely at him. "Hi, my name is Rei." "My name is Naruto," replied the blonde, though it sounded like more of a squeak. Rei's smile widened. "I like your cheeks. The whisker marks make you look like a kitty, or maybe a fox," said the little girl with a laugh, though her last statement made the adults, from Konoha, cringe slightly, though Naruto blushed. In flashback, Gecko sighed. In truth, he felt nothing but sympathy for the boy, as did a good portion of ninja. However, the villagers, and over half the ninjas in the village, felt that the boy was a plague. Gecko thought about what Naruto just did. He couldn't blame the boy, but he knew that things will become much harder for the fox child. Kakashi's house. Kakashi exited his large house. He noticed an Anbu appear right in front of him. The Anbu, obviously a woman, had a hawk mask. "Hello, Rin," Kakashi said with a smile. "Hello, Kakashi. Are you busy?" "C-rank mission," was his only reply. C-rank missions meant leaving the village. "Oh." Rin took off her mask to reveal her slightly depressed green eyes and the red marks on her cheeks. Her brown hair fell to about her neck. "How's he doing?" Kakashi sighed. "I ask myself all the time if things would be different, if Sensei was still alive." Kakashi smiled. "Sometimes I wonder if he would have taken Naruto out of the village when he saw the treatment the boy received. Then we'd be the ones to have the most powerful ninja against us fools." Rin frowned. If they knew the truth about his parents, he would probably be treated better, but then he'd have to deal with assassins all the time. Kakashi nodded. "Want to come visit the Stone of Heroes with me? Sensei and Obito may be getting lonely." Rin smiled and nodded. "Naruto's house. You should have added MY chakra to that. It would have worked better." Naruto ignored the question. He honestly didn't care. He knew that he got his point across to the man, though Naruto was curious on how the demon's chakra would affect his wristband. Flashback. Team 7 were training. Sakura was in one area, punching a dummy. Sasuke was over in another area practicing his Katon jutsus. Naruto was sitting in a meditative stance, practicing his MOKUTON jutsus. Sakura was secretly jealous of both boys, having each a special element. She inwardly thought about pursuing her own, specializing in her own jutsu. Naruto, not noticing Kakashi creeping up behind him, released his hold on the plant that he was currently moving. He had been practicing directing the plants, using his chakra, for about an hour now. He decided to finally try out what the QB suggested, mutating plants. He reached for that small storage of demonic chakra that he possessed and pulled on a bit of it. He mixed it with his own chakra and did the necessary hand seals for MOKUTON Hijitsu, Jukai Koten. Like always, the plant sprouted from the ground. This one was different though. First off, the size was amazing, considering that he didn't use too much of his own chakra. It was about 10 feet tall, half a foot in diameter, except for the strange bud on the top. It was an oval shape, about a foot in diameter. Finally, unlike its other plants, this plant was not brown or green. This one was a sickly pale purple color. Naruto, who was now standing, could only stare at the plant. Sakura and Sasuke were now looking at the demonic plant as well. Kakashi, who was holding his book and came to stand next to Naruto, was also staring at the thing before him. "Idiot. Stop gawking. Don't lose control of that thing." Naruto was too late. The bud opened to reveal huge sets of fangs. The plant before him looked like a snake, sans the eyes. It snapped its fangs open and closed a few times, as if to test them, before snapping in the direction of Naruto and Kakashi. Naruto quickly and easily jumped away to a safe distance. However, Kakashi's Jounin skills made him a bit overconfident. He jumped away about a second after Naruto did. What Kakashi didn't expect was for the plant's jaws to close around his book, tearing the manuscript out of the Jounin's hands. The Jounin landed right next to Naruto. The Jounin clenched his fist together and growled. The plant snapped his head up and back, throwing the book into the air and catching it again in its open maw. Kakashi's eyes widened. That was his limited edition issue of Ica Paradise, the one signed by the author. He sent a wave of killer intent at the plant, which seemed to freeze everyone in a mile radius. Kakashi pulled out a kunai. He jumped at the plant, roaring a war cry as he went to go save his book. And flashback. Kakashi tore the plant apart in search of his book. He eventually found it, though it was completely covered in plant guts, which made it almost unreadable. So, after the funeral, to the book, which Team 7 was forced to attend, Kakashi bought a new book. The fox explained that the demonic plant, no longer being able to gain food from photosynthesis, was forced to find food in another method, eating. After that incident, Naruto hadn't tried adding the demon's chakra to his technique again, though he secretly wondered what it would be like to use it on a certain MOKUTON skill that he recently received. Naruto finished packing and left his house. Westgate. Naruto noticed that Sakura and Tazuna were both there. He noticed Tazuna stiffen again. He walked over to the man. I wanted to apologize for losing my temper with you earlier. Tazuna and Sakura were both taken back by this. Tazuna nodded though. It's all right, I probably shouldn't have provoked you. Tazuna seemed to calm down significantly. Naruto nodded and went to lean against the gate. A few minutes later, Sasuke showed up, ignoring Sakura, who asked him for a date. A few minutes after that, Kakashi showed up. All right, let's go, said Kakashi. On the road, again, please don't flame me for that. The group of 5 was on the road again. Kakashi was reading. Sasuke was brooding. Sakura was thinking of a way to get Sasuke to go out with her. Tazuna was thinking. Naruto was still thinking about how Kyuubi's chakra would affect plants. Tazuna and the children didn't even concern themselves with the puddle that was on the ground, but Kakashi did. It hadn't rained in weeks. Once the group had passed the puddle, 2 figures rose out of it. Each had a clawed gauntlet. They were both attached with a chain. They both lunged themselves at Kakashi, wrapping their sharp chains around the Jounin. They then proceeded to rip him to pieces. Sakura and Tazuna were horrified at what they saw. Naruto had his back turned to the whole event. He was busy staring off at something he thought he saw in the trees. The demon brothers lunged themselves at Naruto. That was when Sasuke jumped into action. He threw a shuriken the chain, catching one of the chain links and sticking it into a nearby tree. He then jumped into the air, hurling one of his kunai and the shuriken to lock the chain in place. He landed, with each foot on one of the gauntlets, and then punched both of the demon brothers. The demon brothers then discarded their gauntlets. They rushed past Naruto, who was still staring off into the forest, and lunged themselves at Tazuna and Sakura. That's when Naruto decided to move. He did the hand seals for Mokuton Hijitsu, Jukai Koten, but called out a different attack. Mokuton Hijitsu, Shokubutsu Funke no Jutsu, would release secret technique, plant decapitation technique. A plant shot out of the ground and dragged one of the unaware demon brothers under. The other demon brother paused to look at his ally, who was dragged up to his head underground. He then held out his right arm. Hayashi Shishuku vines shot out of the plant on Naruto's wrist, growing thorns at the same time. They wrapped themselves around the distracted man's right arm. The man grunted from the pain. Kakashi appeared right in front of the man. You've just been poisoned, courtesy of Naruto there. Kakashi lied, honestly knowing nothing about this odd move Naruto just did, gesturing to Naruto. You have only a few minutes to live. If you tell me what I want to know, I'll give you the antidote. The man was scared shitless, so he quickly complied, telling the ninjas everything about being hired by Gadu, about Zabuza, the demon of the hidden mist. To say that Kakashi was angered would be an understatement. He quickly knocked both men out, after telling them that he was lying about the poison. After digging the first brother out, he tied them both up and sent a message to Konoha to come collect them. "We need to talk." Tazuna grimaced. A few hours later, the group had just finished having dinner and were standing in a clearing. Tomorrow they would get on the ferry to Wave Country. Although Tazuna lied about the mission parameters, the group still agreed to go with him. Kakashi looked up at the sky. He noticed that it was about to rain. He picked a scroll out of one of his pockets. He cut his thumb and smeared the blood on the scroll. He started doing hand seals. After he finished, 12 dogs, all wearing Konoha Hayates, appeared. Kakashi nodded at them. They all ran off in different directions. "They'll keep guard. Set up your tents." Naruto grimaced slightly as the others started setting up their tents. He had forgotten to pack his tent. That's when an idea formed in Naruto's mind. It was a rather big clearing. He started doing hand seals. He never has actually pre-formed this jutsu, though he constantly practiced the hand seals. MOKUTON, Shichuka no Jutsu, would release. 4 pillars house technique. Many roots started coming from the ground. They started growing and twisting together. It took them about a minute to finish. By the time it did, Naruto was on top of a fully formed house. It looked like a 2-story, old Japanese-style inn. The other 4 gawked at the building that just materialized out of the ground. Naruto was panting pretty hard. Damn, for a non-combat jutsu. It sure takes a lot of chakra. After he caught his breath, Naruto jumped down, right next to Kakashi, still smiling. "Sensei, I forgot to pack my tent, so if you don't mind, I'll just camp out in there." "Wouldn't really call that camping," muttered Sakura. She then glanced back at her small tent. "Hey Naruto, I forgot my tent. To mind if I use one of the rooms?" She lied, assuming that the building had multiple rooms. Kakashi smiled at her. "Isn't that your tent over there?" Pointing at the tent that she put up. Sakura smiled nervously. No. "Whatever," muttered Naruto. "Anyone else forget to bring their tent?" Naruto asked as he walked into the building. It started drizzling outside, so Sakura grabbed her bag, leaving the tent that wasn't hers, and walked inside the insized building. Kakashi shrugged and walked inside. Sasuke was thinking, not really how I planned my first time outside the village to be. He shrugged though, figuring might as well be comfortable while sleeping. Tazuna was still gawking. Who the hell are these guys? Chapter 5. Demons of Mist and Leaf. A pair of children were walking side by side down the huge carnival. The blonde child looked backwards to see a small group following them, their bodyguards. Naruto turned back to the silver-haired girl in front of him. They made their way back towards the group of older men, Sarutobi and Yoko. The old men smiled at the two of them. "Have fun, you two?" "Yeah, it was a lot of fun. This carnival is so big," exclaimed an excited Ray. Yoko smiled at his granddaughter. "That's great to hear. We don't have much time left. How about a few pictures?" "Okay," Ray said as she grabbed onto Naruto. She sat down in front of the camera, sitting on Yoko's lap. Naruto sitting on Sarutobi's lap. She was still holding the blonde's hand. One of Yoko's guards were taking the picture. "Say cheese." "Cheese," screamed the excited girl, causing everyone to smile at her happy attitude. The flash went off. Naruto's eyes opened the second the flash went off. He sighed and got up. Outside the wooden house, Naruto charged his chakra. Almost as quickly as it appeared, the incised house disappeared under the soil. This time, however, Naruto wasn't panting. I guess it only takes a lot of chakra to make it grow it, not to send it back to the soil. Naruto nodded at his 4 companions. "All right, let's continue." A few hours later, Team 7 has just got off of the ferry that took them over to Wave Country. They could see the unfinished bridge from their position. "Be careful, Tazuna," warned the boatman. Tazuna nodded in his direction. The party of 5 took off towards the unknown. "So, what's the deal with this Gata person?" asked Sakura. Tazuna sighed. "Smuggling, kidnapping, drug dealing. And that's only a summary of the things he's involved with. He's taxing our people highly. The fact is that unless we finish this bridge, we'll be doomed to poverty forever." "That's awful," Sakura sympathized. Though Naruto was smiling, with a seemingly out-of-it expression, Naruto's mind was going a mile a minute. "Achin, is this what normal humans are? They betray, hurt, and capitalize off of each other. They worry about nothing but their own personal gains. Naruto's thoughts were cut off, though. Now you know what I had to deal with every day? Everybody's like, wah, wah, wah. Kyuubi destroyed my village. They never stopped to understand that I'm the victim here. An image of a chibi Kyuubi entered Naruto's mind. Naruto growled inwardly, "Get the hell out of my mind." The chibi kitsune pouted, "Oh fine, you try to give a guy a little company in the human bashing, and what does it get you? Fucking gets your head bitten off. Geez, the way you talk, you'd think you didn't want me in your life." I'm not going to dignify that with a response. So anyway, I bet the pink-haired ninja is wearing lacy pink panties. The old man is wearing briefs. The other mental one is wearing tidy witties. And your sensei is wearing a thong. What? Naruto's random outburst made the other four stop to stare at the blonde, who for once lost his smile and had a shocked look on his face. Sakura was the first to break out of her stupor. Is something wrong, Naruto? Naruto shook his head, replacing his shocked expression with an eerie smile, and ignoring the loud laughing in his head. No, nothing's wrong. With that, he walked off, leaving the other four to stare at him questioningly. And where the hell did that observation come from? Kyuubi snickered. You can tell a lot about a person by the type of underwear they wear, like your pink-haired friend obviously has a pink fetish. The old man has. He was cut off. I really don't give a damn. Wait, how the hell do you figure Kakashi-sensei is wearing a thong? His look, it just screams, Metro. I changed my mind. I really don't care. Naruto, I suddenly shifted to the right. He quickly pulled out a kunai. This action signaled Sakura, Sasuke, and Tazuna, but not Kakashi, who was already aware. Get down, Kakashi yelled as a giant sword came flying at the group. Naruto and Sasuke jumped down. Kakashi pushed Tazuna and Sakura to the ground. The sword flew harmlessly above the group and became engraved into a tree. A shirtless figure, wearing bandages over his mouth, appeared on the large sword. The group jumped up to their feet. The man, who was wearing a slashed mist height, spoke. Kakashi Hitaki, the copy ninja. It's an honor. No wonder the demon brothers failed. Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist, an A-class nuke nin, missing nin. If I'm to fight you. He reached up to his headband, the part covering his left eye, and pulled it up, revealing a red eye, with 3 black commas. I'll need this. The Sharingan. I'm honored. Sharingan. But he shouldn't have that. That's a blood limit that belongs to my clan. Thought a confused Uchiha. Zabuza, sword and all, disappeared and reappeared right on top of a nearby lake. His chakra flared. Ninpo. Kirigakure no Jutsu. Ninja art. Hidden mist technique. Mist started to gather around the group. The 3 Chunin, who received a signal from Kakashi, got into a formation around Tazuna. Zabuza's voice started coming out of the forest. He was speaking of all the points where it was possible to kill someone. It had all the Chunin on edge. Suddenly the nuke nin appeared behind the ninja, sword ready to cleave all 3 in half. Kakashi turned around and lunged himself at Zabuza, stabbing his kunai into Zabuza. Suddenly Zabuza burst into water. Kakashi turned around just in time to see Zabuza appear behind him and cleave him in half. Suddenly Kakashi, just like Zabuza before him, burst into water as well. Kakashi appeared behind Zabuza and held a kunai to Zabuza's throat. You're done. Zabuza grinned. That's what you think. Zabuza burst into water again. He appeared behind Kakashi again and attempted to cleave him. Kakashi jumped back, landing on the water. Zabuza appeared behind Kakashi again. Suiro no Jutsu, water prison technique. A globe of water surrounded Kakashi. I've got you now. A clone of Zabuza appeared out of the water. The clone started walking towards the Chunin. Run. He's too much for you. Take Tazuna and go. Kakashi yelled. Sakura shook. Kakashi-sensei, we can't just leave him. Sasuke sneered. If I can't fight this guy, how will I ever be able to face him? Naruto's facial expression didn't falter. We'll never be able to avoid him after he kills Kakashi. He'll just catch up and kill us. Only shot is to free Kakashi. They're pretty close to the shoreline. Naruto started flowing his chakra into the ground, just like he's done plenty of times before. Zabuza appeared in front of Naruto and punched him in the face. Sasuke and Sakura, with Tazuna, jumped back. Naruto, on the other hand, was thrown back. When Naruto got back up, he noticed that he wasn't wearing his height. "You children, call yourselves ninja? You aren't worthy of the title," mused Zabuza's Mizu Bunshin as it bounced Naruto's height up and down in his right hand. Naruto's reply was the same smile that he gave everyone. He reached into his bag and pulled out a Fuma Shuriken. He looked at Sasuke, tapping his foot on the ground at the same time. Sasuke stared right back at Naruto, who had just unfolded his Fuma. He understood the signal almost instantly. He reached for his bag, pulling out his own Fuma Shuriken, unfolding it at the same time. Naruto saw Sasuke nod. "Shuriken? Projectiles won't work against me." Sasuke and Naruto both smirked and threw their Fumas. Sasuke, being more skilled with Shuriken, threw his harder and faster. Both Shuriken flew around the water clone, heading straight for the real Zabuza. Sasuke was the first to reach the new CHUNIN. However, the Shuriken proved useless, as Zabuza quickly grabbed the Fuma with his free hand. He quickly looked back up to see Naruto's closing in. He quickly jumped over the Uzumaki's Fuma, keeping his hand in the water globe at the same time. "I told you, a Shuriken won't work against me," yelled Zabuza. He froze though as he saw that both Sasuke and Naruto were still smirking. His eyes slightly widened as he saw Naruto finishing hand seals. Suddenly, a giant root shoots up from the water, smashing against Zabuza's chin. The shurikens were just a distraction. Zabuza stumbles back, releasing his hold on Kakashi's prison, releasing the copy ninja. Kakashi, though relieved, was sending out a huge wave of killer intent at Zabuza, who had regained his balance. He glared at the young Kitsune and threw Sasuke's Fuma at the blonde. The Fuma was, however, intercepted by Kakashi and flew harmlessly into the lake. They both glared at each other before doing a set of hand seals. After a long chain, they both yelled out, "Suiton, Tsuryuden no Jutsu." Two giants water dragons appeared out of the lake and crashed into each other, causing huge waves to form on the lake. They both started doing another set of hand seals. Zabuza's eyes widened. He's not just copying me. He's surpassing my speed. "Suiton, Daiba Kofu no Jutsu," yelled Kakashi before he could complete the seals. A giant torrent of water flew at Zabuza, engulfing him and slamming him into a nearby tree. Zabuza coughed, trying to get the water out of his lungs. He felt Kakashi appear right next to him, placing a kunai against his neck. "Can you see into the future?" Kakashi smiled. "Yes, you're going to die." Suddenly, multiple needles flew out of nowhere and pierced Zabuza's neck. Zabuza fell onto the ground, and someone landed right next to him. She was wearing a green battle kimono and white mask with a red swirl on it and a symbol marking him as a mist nin. "A hunter nin?" "Yes, thank you. You were very helpful in the capture of this man. I've been tracking him for a long time now," said the hunter nin, whose voice obviously marked him as a girl. Kakashi nodded, though hesitantly. The hunter nin grabbed Zabuza and disappeared. Kakashi's eyes widened. "Wait, ugh." With that, Kakashi fainted. "Kakashi-sensei," yelled the kunoichi as she ran to the fallen jounin. The other three slowly followed. Chakra, exhaustion. Tazuna shook his head sadly. "Let's get him to my house." Sakura nodded. Naruto took a second to look around and noticed his height on the ground. Not sensing danger, he went to go pick it up. 2 days later. Kakashi slowly opened his eyes. He found himself in a room, a blue-haired woman staring at him. "You're finally awake," noted the woman. "Where am I?" "This is Tazuna's house," replied Sakura from the door. She pointed to the woman. "This is Tazuna's daughter, Tsunami." Kakashi nodded. "Where are Sasuke and Naruto?" Sakura sighed. "Sasuke's training, Naruto's meditating." "Get them both in here. We're going to begin some real training. Zabuza's still alive." 2 days later. Naruto was currently resting in the middle of the woods. Kakashi had gotten them to try a tree climbing exercise without using their hands. It was meant to increase their chakra control Sakura got a hold of the technique right away. Sasuke made a little progress, but not much. Naruto, on the other hand, hadn't made much progress at all. He had just woken up, having spent the night out in the woods. He had preferred not to go back to Tezuna's house that night because of a scuffle with Tezuna's grandson, Inari. Flashback. Team 7, Tezuna, Tsunami, and Inari were all sitting down for dinner, when all of a sudden Inari stood up, slamming his hands against the table. "Why are you all here? It doesn't matter how much training you do. Gato is unbeatable. He's just going to kill you all," shouted Inari. "Geez, you're such a little bitch," mumbled the Uzumaki, causing everyone to look at him. "What?" "Naruto," yelled Sakura. "First off, you have no idea what it means to have a hard life," Naruto mumbled in between bites. "But that's not important. The fact of the matter is you have two choices: fight or live in this hell for the rest of your life. Your grandfather has chosen to fight by building the bridge and hiring us to protect him, and instead of encouraging him and us, you're wasting our time by spewing crap about how Gato will kill us." Naruto set down his plate and stood up, smiling eerily at the boy before him, ignoring the shocked looks he was receiving. "The fact of the matter is, you're useless. I used to be like you, letting anyone push me around and not even caring. But I'm different now. I'm no one's bitch now. And unless you want to change yourself, you might as well go to Gato and ask him to kill you tonight." With that, Naruto left the dining room, going off to train. End flashback. Maybe I shouldn't have been so hard on the kid. Oh well, too late to worry about that now. Naruto shrugged it off. He was still lying on the grass. He heard some faint footsteps and opened his eyes. To his right, he saw a girl walking in his direction. Long brown hair, chocolate eyes, wearing a pink kimono. She had a basket in one of her hands. She looked to be a little older than him, though not by much. He shrugged it off, closing his eyes again. "Not my concern." "Hello," said the girl. Naruto sighed inwardly. Should have guessed that she wouldn't leave me alone. "HN," he replied without opening his eyes. The girl shrugged and started picking plants. "You'll catch a cold if you sleep out here." "Probably." The girl paused to look at him. She was noticeably unnerved by his smile. "You're probably worrying your family and friends by staying out here." "No friends, no family," Naruto said, partially lying. "I'm sorry to hear that." She looked at him for a while longer. "Are you a ninja? Can't hide anything from you, can I?" The girl glared at him for a second, but her face softened quickly. Must have had a hard life. I'm sorry for that." "Not your fault, so don't apologize." The girl sighed. "My name's Haku." "Naruto." "Are you strong, Naruto-san? How do you judge strength?" Haku thought about that for a while, before smiling at him. "I personally think that your strength is determined by your precious people. I think that if you have a lot of people to protect, that will make you strong. By your philosophy, I'm weak." "You don't have any precious people?" Naruto didn't answer right away. He thought back to a silver-haired, red-eyed girl. His first friend. He thought about a brown-haired Chunin, with a scare on his face, the first Konoha citizen to not see him as a hero or a demon, but as Naruto. He thought about the aged Hokage, though he would always say that he hated all three of them, especially the Hokage. He never really hated them. "Nope, I don't have many worth protecting. The ones I do have can easily protect themselves." "No one? Not one person worth protecting?" Naruto thought about a pink-haired kunoichi, an onyx-eyed avenger, and a silver-haired pervert. His thought about his family that he'd never even met before. "Nope, not one." He felt a hand on his shoulder and resisted the urge to grab his kunai and stab it. Out of reaction, of course, he opened his eyes to look up at the girl. "I'm so sorry to hear that, Naruto-san." Naruto sighed. "Like I said, not your fault. Nothing to be sorry about." Haku sighed. She got up, having filled her basket, and made to leave. "Those herbs, are those for your precious person, Haku?" She paused and turned towards the boy. "Yes, I'm hoping they'll heal him up quickly." "HN, goodbye." "Goodbye, Naruto-san. I hope you find peace in this world or the next," she said, whispering that final part to herself. Protecting one's precious people as a source of strength. I wonder. Well, in another time, in another world, I may have listened her words. Another hour went by before Naruto decided to get up. When he did, he noticed Sasuke appear right next to him. They both nodded at each other before going to practice on their own. A few days later, let my mother go. Naruto shot up off of his mattress. He quickly looked around and noted that Sasuke, his roommate, wasn't with him. Let her go dash, the same voice screamed, obviously Inari. Inari, just run away. Came a second voice, Tsunami. Naruto jumped to his feet and ran to the door, grabbing his fighting clothes and gear at the same time. Downstairs. Naruto came downstairs, dressed as he normally would. He didn't see anyone, but noted the front door wide opened. Shit, he muttered under his breath as he ran out the door. Where are Kakashi-sensei and the others? He figured that he had obviously overslept, having spent the last week doing nothing but practicing the tree climbing exercise. He had finally completed it last night, as did Sasuke. They both made it in late. Naruto ran outside of the rather large house. He looked around and noticed that Inari was running towards the docks. Two men, both carrying swords, were dragging along his mother. Inari, let her go now, screamed the young boy as he rushed the two swordsmen, only to be kicked away by one. Get lost, you little punk, muttered the one who kicked him. Inari, run away now. Inari paused, still on the ground, tears in his eyes. And unless you want to change yourself, you might as well go to Gato and ask him to kill you tonight. You must protect what's yours with both your arms. Inari's eyes widened and narrowed in determination. I won't let you take away my mother too. H, he screamed as he rushed both mercenaries, fist raised. They both looked on in amusement as they unsheathed their swords. Tsunami's eyes widened. And lo, both men slashed at the boy, cleaving him twice. No blood was spilled though. That's when the boys suddenly turned into a log. They heard something land on the bridge behind them. They turned around just in time to see a few thorn vines heading towards the one on the left. Hayashi Shishuku, muttered the blonde behind the vines. They wrapped themselves around the waist of one of the mercenaries, making him scream as the thorns pierced his skin. Naruto quickly pulled on the vines and slammed the entangled man into the one who was still free, knocking them both into the water. He saw a little blood come up to the surface and quickly mused the idea of it being shark-infested waters, but he quickly got rid of the thought. He turned back to the boy behind him, who was latched onto his mother. Good job, Inari. If it wasn't for you, it would have been a little harder to take those guys out. Inari smiled at the blonde. Naruto turned to walk away. If these guys are here, that means there may be trouble at the bridge. Bridge. Naruto got to the position where everyone was obviously fighting. He was currently right underneath the bridge, walking on the bottom of it. Thankful that he didn't have to swim, he slowly made his way to peek over the top. He saw Sakura and Tazuna together. He could see a large quantity of mist, guessing that's where Kakashi and Zabuza were. Lastly, he saw Sasuke, looking very much like a pincushion, surrounded by what looked like multiple mirrors, with the reflection of that Hunter Nin moving through each one. I guess that Hunter Nin was a fake after all. Naruto went back down and took this time to think. Sasuke is having trouble with that Hunter Nin, and who knows where Kakashi is. I doubt I can do much against the Hunter Nin, but Naruto mused as he started searching through his pouch. On the bridge, the mist had dispersed slightly, letting everyone see Kakashi and Zabuza's fight. They looked to be at about even terms at the moment. Suddenly, they heard an explosion. Kakashi turned around to see the source. Zabuza, already facing towards that direction, didn't need to turn. Sakura, Sasuke, Tazuna, and the Hunter Nin paused as well. There was a large amount of smoke right between both fights, Kakashi versus Zabuza, and Sasuke versus the Hunter Nin. When the smoke cleared, Naruto, doing a moronic pose, appeared. Yo! Kakashi growled, Naruto, you should have stayed hidden. He would have been more useful as a distraction. Damn it, I should have taught him better. Naruto's reply was a simple smile before he muttered, MOKUTON Hijitsu, Jukai Koten. Suddenly a root broke through the bridge, right next to Zabuza, causing everyone to snap their heads in that direction. Zabuza laughed, obviously expecting it. He slightly moved his head back, causing the root to miss hitting his chin again. His eyes widened, though, at what he saw next. An explosive tag. The tag exploded right in front of Zabuza, causing him to go flying back. Kakashi took this moment to take a scroll out of his vest. Zabuza finally regained his balance, landing on the bridge, when two more plants shot out of the ground. These two, however, were both purple and had a mouth of sharp teeth. They latched themselves onto the arms of the man, causing him to howl in pain. He started struggling for a bit. Finally, he ripped one of his arms out of one of the plant's mouths, causing large scratches to appear due to the teeth. That's the second time I've underestimated this punk. He grabbed his sword, which was on his back, and used it to cleave both plants, releasing his other arm. However, that was all the distraction that was required. Kuchios, Doton, Suga no Jutsu. Multiple large dogs shot out of the ground and latched themselves all over Zabuza's body. Kakashi growled, "You're done," as he started doing hand seals. Raikiri, Lightning Blade. Chakra started crackling into Kakashi's right hand, his left holding his right wrist. He started rushing the nuke Nin, planning to impale him with the crackling lightning chakra. The Hunter Nin's eyes widened, though you couldn't see it through his mask. She exited her mirror and started doing hand seals. Two mirrors started to appear, one next to her and one next to Zabuza. Her eyes widened again as she feels two cuts graze her arms. She turned back around to see that Sasuke had thrown two kunai. I forgot about him. She turned to complete the hand seals when she sees multiple vines wrap themselves around her, the thorns piercing her shoulders and upper chest. /N. Perverts, get your minds out of the gutter. Naruto pulls on his right arm and slams her against the ground. This causes her mask to break, and Naruto notices that she's the same girl as before. She tries to struggle, but he restrains her, putting a knee to one hand, the other knee to her back, one hand restraining her other hand, and with his right hand, he puts a kunai to her neck. He slightly loosens the hold on the vines. She raises her head to watch Kakashi about to pierce Zabuza. "Let me go! Let me go!" she screams, still struggling and ignoring the kunai at her throat. Naruto was slightly taken back. Does she care about this man that much? "I'm sorry, Haku." It was too late though. Zabuza was hit. No. Kakashi lowers his headband, covering his Sharingan, as he dismisses the dogs, letting Zabuza drop. Naruto sighs and gets off of the girl, releasing her from the vines restraining her. She jumps to her feet and rushes over to Zabuza. She kneels by the bloody man, who now has a fist-sized hole in his chest. "Zabuza-sama. You failed me, my weapon, you've rusted." Haku's eyes widened at the words of the man who she considered a father. "Zabuza-sama. Just like a human," muttered Naruto as he walked by both Zabuza and Haku. Haku glared at him, but it was Zabuza who responded, "What? Demon of the hidden mist, BH. You're nothing but a human, using others how you please until they're no longer useful to you. Never mind the fact that she would do anything you said, or that she almost gave her life for yours. You simply live on the fact that she failed you. You're nothing but a simple, weak human, Zabuza." With that, Naruto walked off. "You're wrong," muttered Haku. Zabuza's eyes had widened, though. He thought back to the time when he first took Haku in, when he trained her. All the times they spent together, it made tears well up in his eyes. He lay there thinking for so long that he hadn't even noticed that Gatu arrived a minute ago with a horde of mercenaries. "Now that you all are worn out, I can easily finish you off," laughed the old man. Kakashi and Naruto got into a combat stance. Sasuke was ready as well, though still hurt from the needles. Sakura, dutifully, stood right in front of Tazuna. Haku growled, "You dash." She was cut off, though, as she felt a hand on her shoulder. "Haku, I'm sorry, and thank you for everything," muttered the demon of the hidden mist. He started chewing on the bandages that were covering his mouth until they fell, revealing the bottom of his face. He looked at Naruto with a look of respect. "Hey kid, give me that kunai knife." Naruto nodded as he tossed the kunai he was holding into the air. Zabuza caught it in his mouth and rushed at the group. Gatu, scared shitless, ran behind his mercenary. Zabuza rushed into the crowd, slashing at the mercenary and at the same time being pierced with several spears and swords. He finally broke away from the crowd and rushed at Gatu, slashing him and stabbing the old man before sending him into the ocean. Zabuza fell to his knees and then fell completely. "Zabuza!" screamed an upset Haku. The remaining mercenaries sneered at the group. "Whatever, we'll pillage the town and Gata's storages." That's when an arrow embedded itself onto the ground right next to the one who spoke. Everyone turned to see Inari, holding a crossbow, and an angry mob of villagers rushing towards the fighters. The mercenaries freaked out and ran away, now being outclassed and outmatched. Haku, still suffering from her own wounds, managed to limp towards Zabuza's body. She kneeled and started crying on his chest. Otusin. Chapter 6. The Chunin Exams. Team 7 and Haku were currently crossing the new bridge that connected Wave Country to Fire Country. It had been about 2 weeks since the battle on the Great Bridge. However, without Gatu or his men around, guarding the bridge and bridge builders had been a one-person job, Team 7 each taking a turn. Naruto had spent the remainder of the time training his MOKUTON Abelites. Recently, he had been able to create 5 trees at a time. The problem was that this ability sapped to much of his chakra. For someone like Naruto, who had an abundance of chakra, it was quite a feat to sap him of nearly half of his chakra, not including Kyuubi's store, of course. Kakashi used most of his free time with Sasuke. He needed to teach the boy how to control his Sharingan, having unlocked it during the fight with Haku. Sakura trained every now and then, but mostly spent time with Haku. Haku, however, went into a deep form of depression. For a whole week she stayed in her room, the one Tsunami had allowed her to use. She barely ate or drank a thing. Sakura went to her side often to try to cheer the girl up. Even Kakashi came and offered the girl a few kind words. He felt horrible, being the one who killed the Mist Nin, or at least the one who gave him the fatal wound. Sasuke, knowing what it's like to have the ones you care about killed before your eyes, wanted to offer the girl his condolences, but he really didn't know what to say to her, so he decided to just leave her be. Naruto, knowing what it's like to be alone for most of his life, also felt like consoling her, but like Sasuke, he wasn't skilled in doing so, so he opted to leave her alone as well, though he did feel responsible for her heartache. After about a week, she finally decided to come back outside, though she spent the next 4 days outside in the forest. On the 4th day, she finally had a long talk with Sakura. The two girls talked about multiple things, and for that one day, Sakura managed to get Haku's mind off of Zabuza. The remainder of the few days Haku spent at Tezuna's house, spending her time downstairs, mostly with either Tsunami or Sakura. On the day before the Leaf Nins were meant to go back to Konoha, Haku asked Kakashi if she could go with them. Kakashi agreed to the girl's request, and so they left together. A week later, Konoha. Team 7 was currently standing on the bridge, where they usually wait for their sensei. Sakura, after having asked Sasuke on a date for the 10th time that week, was simply sitting on the railing and looking out towards the village. Sasuke, after declining Sakura's request, opted to lean against the railing, brooding about how he would kill his brother. Naruto was also leaning against the railing, but unlike Sasuke, he wasn't brooding. Naruto had woken up early to continue his testing on some plants. He had learned, on the trip back to Konoha, that he could manipulate some plants that were growing around him. He couldn't do too much work with them while the group was traveling. He woke up early, though, to start experimenting on other plants. Most of them had interesting results, though he didn't care too much about the results of the rose. It turned into a long whip with multiple thorns. He dispelled the effects when he thought he heard someone yell something about S&M loving fox. Or maybe it was just in his head. He thought he heard laughing as well. At the moment, Naruto was holding a bamboo flower, having grabbed it right before he left for the bridge. Naruto, holding the bamboo flower between his hands, started doing the necessary hand seals. Unlike the moon leaves on his wrist, other plants weren't so sensitive to chakra, and as such couldn't change as quickly. Last time Naruto attempted to change a plant without using hand seals, it had taken him close to half an hour of constantly concentrating chakra to do so. So Kyuubi had helped him develop hand seals, which would make the process take only a few seconds. The hand seals were actually just a condensed version of the MOKUTON Hijitsu, Jukai Koten hand seals. He finished the hand seals, muttering, "Mokuton Hijitsu, Shokabutsu Henkan no Jutsu," would release secret technique, plant transformation technique. The bamboo flower started to grow. The stem grew very long, and a point formed at the end of it. The leaves grew out and formed a crossguard. To say Naruto was disappointed, though he didn't show it, would be an understatement. It looks like a damn sword. He began to rub the dull edge. It doesn't even have a sharp edge. He began rubbing the top of it and cut his finger on the point. The point is sharp, but what good is it without an edge? All in all, it looked like a piece of bamboo, with the leaves acting like a useless crossguard. He decided to flip the sword upside down, stabbing the point against the bridge, and started doing hand seals again, this time adding some of Kyuubi's chakra to it. Mokuton Hijitsu, Shokabutsu Henkan no Jutsu. This time the sword changed more drastically. Like all other plants that he changed with Kyuubi's chakra, this plant changed purple. The round blades started to flatten, growing a sharp edge on one side and curving slightly. The hilt was still round, allowing one to hold it. The leaves of the cross guards changed into long thorns. Naruto smirked. Now that's a sword. Wait, why am I even thinking about this? He thought, fingering the wakizashi on his belt. I already have a sword, and I have no idea how to use it effectively. Why am I worrying about this? Naruto shrugged and dispelled the jutsu, the bamboo sword changing back into a bamboo plant. He sighed and glanced over at his two teammates. Sakura turned away. She was probably checking out the sword. Sasuke, Sharingan blazing, was glaring daggers at him and growling. Naruto's smile widened. Ever since he unlocked the Sharingan, Sasuke had been trying to copy Naruto's Mokuton techniques, only to fail each time. Yo! Kakashi appeared in a puff of smoke. You're late, yelled an enraged Sakura. Kakashi shrugged. Sorry I'm late. I'm afraid I got dash, but he was cut off. Lost on the path of life. Naruto finished for him. HN, you were probably also helping a little old lady cross the street. Sasuke added. Her cat was probably being attacked by an S-rank missing mean as well, muttered Sakura. Kakashi blinked. Yes, something like that. Anyway, here. He pulled out 3 slips of paper. I've decided to enter the 3 of you in the CHUNIN exams. Naruto and Sasuke's eyes widened. Sakura was a little downhearted. Am I ready for this? Questioned the scared Kunoichi. This'll be a chance to fight ninja from other villages, as well as my own. Sasuke thought with a smirk. Finally, all I have to do is get through this and impress the judges, then I can finally leave. Naruto thought with a smile. The choice to enter is your choice and yours alone. It won't hurt your teammates if you decide not to enter. The information is on the sheets. With that, Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. The 3 means disappeared in a puff of smoke. Somewhere in the village. Naruto was walking down the streets, smiling at the villagers as usual. He noticed something following him, though. It was a square rock. Come out, Konohamaru. The square rock stopped moving and exploded, sending smoke everywhere. The smoke cleared to reveal goggle-wearing kids, 2 boys and 1 girl. They were all coughing. When they stopped, they looked up at Naruto. All 3 blinked before going into a weird pose. I'm Moegi, the sassiest Kunoichi in preschool. I like algebra. I am Udon. And I am the toughest ninja in the village. My name is Konohamaru. And we are the Konohamaru Ninja Corps, the 3 ninja chorist. Naruto sighed. What do you 3 want? Moegi ran up to Naruto. Boss, you said that you would play ninja with us, she said with tears in her eyes. Naruto sighed. Fine. How about a game of hide and seek? You guys run away and hide. Then I'll go find you. Maybe after ramen. Why? The youngsters chorused and ran away. They ran around the corner. Naruto shrugged and started walking the opposite direction until he heard something. OW, little brat. Hey, let me go. He could hear Konohamaru scream. Naruto turned towards the noise. He then shrugged and turned back around. He'll be fine, Dash. I'll teach you a lesson. Naruto froze at that. Damn it. He turned and walked over to where he heard the rukus. He saw a boy in black holding on to Konohamaru, Muj and Udon cowering a few feet away from them, and a blonde girl with a large fan on her back. The teens were both wearing sand hitayate. Okay, I don't really want to deal with any of this, so I'll only say this once. While I agree that the kid you're holding is indeed a brat, he's also the Hokage's grandson. Naruto explained to the black-clothed boy. The boy and the girl's eyes widened. Damn it, Kankuro. I don't want any trouble, so put him down. Kankuro dropped Konohamaru. The boy ran back and hid behind Naruto, as did Moegi and Udon. Good move, because I'm pretty sure there are a few A and BU constantly watching the brat, probably waiting until you actually hit him. Kankuro sneered at the smiling blonde. And who the hell are you? Naruto shrugged. No one of any importance. Naruto turned and started walking away, the three youngsters in front of him. Kankuro growled, "You." Kankuro reached for a bandaged thing on his back. He froze when he felt a rock hit him on the head. Naruto and the kids paused at that point as well. They all turned to see Sasuke, sitting on a tree branch, bouncing a rock on his hand. I wouldn't do that if I were you. He may dress like an idiot, but he's pretty tough. Sasuke smirked. Kankuro glared at Sasuke. Temari stepped in. Enough, Kankuro. Enough, spoke a cold voice from out of nowhere. It seemed to freeze Kankuro and Temari. Sasuke turned his head to see a red-headed boy behind him. I didn't even feel him behind me. The boy disappeared in a swirl of sand and reappeared in front of Kankuro. You're an embarrassment. Let's go now. Konohamaru, who was still cowering behind Naruto, yelled. And just who the hell are you? Gaara turned, ignoring Konohamaru and looking straight at the smiling blonde. Shikaku, why are you reacting to him? My name is Gaara no Sabaku, Gaara of the desert. I'm curious about you two. Something odd about this kid. Wonder what it is. Wait, isn't there something I should be remembering? Something about demons in Wind Country. How the hell should I know? I'm not in charge of your memory. Oh well, it probably isn't anything life-threatening. Naruto's smile widened. My name is Naruto, no Hayashi, Naruto of the forest. Sasuke's eyes widened for a moment. Naruto of the forest, that's a new one, though I suppose it is fitting. Gaara stared at Naruto for a moment. That smile, I'll enjoy destroying it. With that, Gaara turned and walked away, Kankuro and Temari behind him. Achin, we sure are meeting a bunch of freaks lately. Sasuke mused as he turned to his smiling teammate. But then again, you're not that ordinary yourself. Naruto's apartment. Naruto was walking to his door when he heard something. Hello, Naruto-san. Naruto turned to see Haku walk out the door next to his. Naruto nodded to her. Late for work. I'll see you later. Haku ran off in the direction of the hospital. When the group returned to Konoha, Kakashi asked the third if he could place Haku among their ranks. Unfortunately, there weren't any openings in the teams, so Haku took a job in the hospital nearby. The third had promised to put her on a Chunin team after the Chunin exam. Naruto always becomes a little unnerved by Haku. He assisted in killing her master. Hell, he even stopped her from saving him. But she was always nice to him. He mused with the thought that she was just trying to get close enough to him to kill him. He shrugged it off, though. Naruto walked inside. The next day, Naruto was standing in the middle of a forest. He was holding Moegi in his arms. Konohamaru and Udon were standing a few feet behind him. There was a giant root in front of him holding a man with a rain hitayate. Naruto smiled widely. I guess I'll take you the Yanbiyu. The Rain-nin's eyes widened, and in a puff of smoke, Irika was in the place of the Rain-nin. You were far too careless, Irika-sensei. Irika smiled at the boy. I suppose I did get careless. You were never supposed to catch me. But now that you have, you should know that this was all a test. And you can let me go now. Naruto seemed to think this over for a few seconds. Irika's eyes widened. You still attacked a citizen of Leaf, he said, indicating Moegi. So, I think I'll take you to Yanbiyu anyway. I hear they have an interesting interrogator. Irika nearly choked. Is he talking about Ibiki? Irika started struggling like a wild animal. He finally managed to free both his hands to perform Kawarimi. Irika was replaced with a log. Naruto shrugged. Moegi pouted. Why did Irika do this? Naruto shrugged. Some kind of test. Even after I graduate, he's still testing me, sadist. Examination building. Naruto walked up to the building where they would be taking the exam. When he walked in, he was surprised to see Sasuke on the ground, Sakura crouched over him. There was this kid wearing a green eyesore talking to a turtle. He walked over to his teammates. "Sorry I'm late. I think Kakashi is rubbing off on me." Sakura and Sasuke looked at him before turning back to the kid and the turtle. Naruto nearly dropped his smile. "Forget my earlier thoughts. This kid is an eyesore. I bet he goes commando. Would you drop the underwear subject?" The turtle yelled, "Get ready because here comes Guy-sensei." The turtle disappeared in a puff of smoke. The smoke cleared to reveal the man that looks almost exactly like the boy. "Lee," the man said as he punched the boy. "Never show your best jutsu unless it's an emergency." He looked at the group in front of him. "So, you're Kakashi's team. How's he been?" Sakura spoke first. "You know Kakashi-sensei?" "Yep. In fact, people say that we are eternal rivals." "He's kidding, right?" thought Sasuke. Lee dash. At this point, Naruto decided to tune out their random babbling and started replaying plan effects in his head. Examination room. Naruto was sitting in a desk taking a test. There were sentries all around them to prevent cheating. He glanced to his right to see that weird girl. "I think her name is Hinata." He started glancing around the room, careful to avoid eyeing the test papers. Many of the students were glaring at their test papers. Obviously, they didn't know how to answer the questions. He looked at one student, a seat in front of him and one seat to the left, who was rushing through the exams. "Wait, haven't I seen that guy before? Last time I saw him, though, he was wearing a CHUNIN vest, though. Did he get demoted?" He looked around. "Wait, if we get caught cheating, we'll lose 2 points. Why? Normally when you get caught cheating, we get thrown out right away. Unless the point of this exam is to cheat, but not get caught." He looked at the boy he was staring at before. "I need to cheat off of that guy and not get caught. But how?" Naruto's thinking was unfortunately being distracted by an idiot in front of him. He was balancing a pencil on his nose. Finally, it happened a kunai came from one of the sentries, splitting the pencil in half. "Hey, you're not here to screw around. Either get to work or leave," growled the one and only Ibiki Marino. Naruto's eyes widened as he looked around the room. Everyone had their eyes glued on Ibiki and the kid. He turned back to the kid who had just finished his exam. "That's what I'll do." He pulled 2 coins out of his pocket, putting one in each hand. He started flipping them into the air, waiting. Finally, 2 kunai flew out of nowhere, catching each of the coins, sending each to his side of the room. It had the exact effect he wanted. Everyone, including the sentries, turned to see the kunais on their side of the room. Luckily, Naruto was at about the center of the room. Now, Hayashi Shishuku. Vines extended from his bracelet, grabbing the corner of the boy's paper, the one who finished his exam. Naruto quickly retracted the vines and brought the boy's paper to his desk, crumpling his own paper and sticking it in his jacket. He quickly erased the boy's name and wrote his own. He then started looking around. No one noticed what he did. He looked to the front of the room to see the examiner glaring at him. "Shit, he saw me." Naruto grimaced inwardly. Ibiki, however, merely smirked at Naruto and looked away. Naruto sighed and started looking around again. He saw one pair of Sharingan eyes looking at him and a pair of Byakugan eyes. The Sharingan eyes belonged to Sasuke, who was smirking at Naruto. The Byakugan eyes belonged to a boy with long brown hair. "Hey!" screamed the boy who had only just noticed that his paper was missing. "Shut up, maggot. Next time you don't get an exam paper, mention it beforehand. Otherwise, I'll throw you out," yelled Ibiki as he slammed a paper on the kid's desk. The sentries were looking at Ibiki with confusion etched on their faces. Naruto shrugged and waited until the final question showed up. He didn't have to wait long. 30 minutes later. They had to choose whether or not to take the final question. If they didn't take the question, they failed the exam. If they did take the question and missed it, they would never be allowed to take the exams again. Naruto shrugged the question off. "I've gotten this far already. In the end, it doesn't matter. If I'm never allowed to become a Chunin, then I'll become a missing nin once I become strong enough." Ibiki looked around the moment. He saw that no one else was quitting. "You all pass." Chapter 7. Enter the first of the legendary 3. Watch out, Sasuke. Sasuke dodged to the left, jumping from one tree branch to the next, just in time to avoid a flurry of shuriken. He paused for a moment to glare at his opponent, the woman who wore a grass hitayate. Sasuke glanced over to where Sakura was hiding and then back towards the grass nin. The woman jumped at Sasuke, and the two started fighting with taijutsu. Damn it! How the hell did we get in this mess? Flashback. Team 7 were standing in the middle of a clearing. They had just chased away a rain nin, whom had snuck into the group using a henge of Naruto. Sasuke growled, "This can't happen again. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a password that only the three of us will know." Naruto and Sakura both nodded. Sasuke-kun, that's a great idea, dash. She was cut off as a large gust of wind hit the three ninjas. The three members of Team 7 were blown into the trees, where they grabbed on for dear life. Naruto was the first to let go, and he was blown away, high into the air. "Naruto!" screamed Sakura. A few moments later, Sakura and Sasuke both let go of the trees, each going a different direction. Luckily, at the time that the two remaining members of Team 7 let go, the wind started to die down, so they didn't go too far. Sasuke landed on the ground with a painful thud. After a few moments, he jumped to his feet and looked at his surroundings. He was surrounded in forest. He quickly started moving, in search of his lost comrades or for whoever it was that attacked them. Moments later, he came upon a clearing where he saw his lost pink-haired teammate. "Damn it, we didn't have a chance to come up with a password." She moaned in pain as she started to lift herself off the ground. She looked up and saw Sasuke, holding a kunai. "Sasuke-kun." "Shut up. I'll only ask this once. The first day we became a team, I discussed with the three of you my ambitions. There were two of them. What were they?" Sasuke sneered, clutching his kunai harder. Sakura was a little disturbed. "He may think that I'm an enemy. You wanted to rebuild your clan and kill somebody," she said, remembering what Sasuke said, along with every single other detail that she could dig up about him. Sasuke nodded and lowered his kunai. "We better go find Naruto. Keep your guard up though, dash." Sasuke paused when he heard something whizzing through the air. He leapt forward, grabbed Sakura, and jumped into the trees, just in time to avoid a flurry of kunai that fell on Sakura's last position. Sasuke and Sakura both jumped back to the ground. Suddenly something came out of the trees and landed right in front of Sasuke and Sakura. It was the woman, a grass nin, who gave back the kunai of the second examiner, using a super long tongue. Sasuke glared at the nin before launching himself at her. The grass nin dodged Sasuke and jumped high into the trees. Sasuke followed, as did Sakura. Sasuke looked around for the grass nin. "Damn it, where is she?" He concentrated chakra to his eyes. Sharingan. He activated his blood limit. The second he did, though, he heard Sakura yell, "Watch out, Sasuke." And flashback. Damn it, where the hell is Naruto when you need him? Somewhere in the forest. Naruto lifted himself off the ground. "Must have fainted after I hit the ground." Naruto looked up and nearly choked. In front of him was a giant snake. The snake snapped at Naruto. Naruto, luckily, managed to jump to his feet and avoid the snake's maw. Naruto grabbed some shuriken and launched him at the snake. The snake, easily, took the hits and shook them off. The snake launched his tail at the snake. Unfortunately, Naruto wasn't fast enough to avoid the hit and was slammed into a tree. Figures I would end up with the giant snake. Sasuke. Sasuke launched shurikens, with wires attached, at the grass nin. He managed to tie the grass nin against a tree, the wires cutting into her body. He started doing hand seals, katan, Ryuka no Jutsu, fire release, dragon fire technique. Sasuke blasted a large torrent of fire along the wires and engulfed the grass nin. Sasuke dropped to his knees, breathing hard. Finally. Sasuke. Sasuke's head snapped up to see the grass nin walk out of the flames and then turn into mud. A mud clone. Naruto. Naruto was sent flying into another tree. No matter what he did, he couldn't damage the giant snake. He had attempted to send roots at the giant snake, which only led to the snake swerving around the roots. He had attempted using his demon plants. However, the snake quickly tore through those. He had even attempted using Hayashi Shishuku. It didn't work, though. At the moment, he had multiple scratches and bruises all over his body, though they were healing due to QB. Do something, you idiot. Do you have any bright ideas? Concentrate some of my chakra into your bracelet, but make sure to stay in control. Stay in control. Why do I have a feeling you're about to screw me over? You really should be more trusting. Shut up. Naruto, however, did as he was told and started concentrating demonic chakra into his moon leaves. He glared at the snake, blood from a head injury seeping into his eyes. The bracelet started to glow a blood red. For the first time in a long time, he let his smile fall. Aha! He launched his arm at the direction of the snake. An explosion of red and purple shot from the bracelet. Stems grew in length, and the leaves grew much larger. The plant engulfed the snake. The snake attempted to fight off the plant, but was unable to fight the plant off. It suddenly howled in pain, and Naruto could hear something that sounded like teeth sinking into flesh. Naruto looked the dark purple plant over and managed to see one of the leaves that hadn't attached itself to the snake. It had a large mouth and razor-sharp teeth. Is it trying to eat the snake? Of course not. What kind of screwed-up plant would try to eat a snake? It's trying to suck its blood out dash. QB paused for a moment. Idiot. Get the moon leaves off your wrist. Get them off now. Naruto didn't wait to be told twice. He ripped the leaves off of his wrist and threw them on the ground. More large stems started to grow from the bracelet, as well as large leaves. The leaves attacked the young kitsune, who quickly jumped away. Naruto jumped onto a tree branch. The snake landed on the ground with a thud, the plant still engulfing it, sucking its blood. Kuketsu Shokabutsu, blood-sucking plant, spoke QB. It'll suck the blood out of anything that it can get a hold of. The remaining leaves attached themselves to the snake. Something seems so grotesque about all of this. Keep watching. The giant snake suddenly disappeared, and the plant curled into a tight ball. The plant started to glow red and purple again. Finally, a large stem, much larger than the others, grew from the center. A large rose grew from this stem, and the rest of the plant turned into a bluish-green color. Lovely flower. Never thought you'd be one to appreciate a flower. When a plant sucks the blood from its victim to bloom, it seems more appealing. Interesting. By the way, did you bring another moonleaf bracelet with you? Naruto shook his head. I haven't gotten around to making another bracelet. Idiot. I guess it can't be helped. The snake, it disappeared how? Why? It was a summoned spirit. Someone in this forest has possession of the snake contract. I wonder who it is. Naruto turned. I better get back to the others. Naruto jumped off, placing the same eerie smile on his face. Sasuke. The grass nin, who had a portion of its face torn off, revealing pale skin and a yellow, slitted eye, slammed Sasuke against a tree. She held the Uchiha against the tree using only one hand. Just as quickly, the grass nin sunk her teeth into Sasuke's neck. Exclamation point. Sasuke let out a blood-curdling yell, which could be heard all throughout the forest. The grass nin let go of Sasuke, letting him slump on the tree branch. She smiled before disappearing. The Uchiha will be mine. Sasuke Kun. Sakura jumped onto the branch and grabbed onto Sasuke. Sakura looked around frantically. Naruto, I need your help. Her answer was complete and total silence. What am I supposed to do? Muttered the pink-haired ninja. She sat there, with Sasuke resting against her lap, until she heard a familiar chakra signature nearby. Naruto. Naruto landed in a clearing. I can feel Sakura's chakra signature up ahead. Stupid girl. She'll get herself killed that way. She should be concealing it. Naruto-kun. Naruto's eyes widened as he suddenly started looking around. Do you hate Konohagakure? Naruto's face became a smile once again as he stopped looking around. Congratulations, Captain Obvious. What do you want, a fucking medal? The voice seemed to ignore the comment. I've been watching you, Naruto-kun. I saw you in the first exam. Your abilities over plants is amazing. And let me guess, you want me to give you myself. You want my abilities, isn't that right? The voice chuckled. Of course, in return I'll give you revenge against these pathetic fools, the ones who shun you, hate you, treat you like dirt, despise you for just being alive. Naruto seemed to think this over. No thanks. You should reconsider. The village hurt me, much like it hurt you. I should have been the fourth Hokage, but instead they make that fool the fourth. If I had been the Hokage, I would never even dream of using you as the host. I would have beaten the Kyuubi with my own abilities. Naruto chuckled. Don't leave me in the dark. What's so funny? You are in this village. You should come back to the village and ask for forgiveness. The voice growled. And why would I do that? You're both so pathetic. You left this village for the sole purpose of obtaining revenge against it. You blame the fourth because he received the title over you. Naruto started. This village is the same way. They blame me because they were far too weak to defeat the Kyuubi and therefore lost so many. They consider me a relic of the past just because I am the vessel for the Kyuubi no Kitsune. The fact of the matter is that you two were made for each other. Naruto smiled inwardly when he heard a low growl. I, on the other hand, am better than that, better than these moronic villagers and better than you. When I leave. I won't return to seek vengeance, because I'm above that. Naruto finished. Naruto could hear the voice growl some more, before suddenly stopping. Kukuku, Naruto, you're such a silly little boy. I will have you, and I will have your little friend Sasuke. Unfortunately, my time is up. Naruto sighed. What a hassle. He heard something. He turned to see none other than his pink-haired teammate, her eyes as large as plates, staring at the blonde. I guess she heard us. He mused as he walked over to her. He heard something else. He turned to see the purple-haired second examiner come out of the trees. She clenched her fist. Damn you. I'll get you, Orochimaru. She muttered before going back into the trees. He turned back to Sakura, who was still looking at him in horror. So you heard, huh? Sakura didn't even move. She didn't even speak. What do you have to say about it? He was kind of enjoying this, the fact that she shouldn't answer him. She was against a tree. He placed his hand next to her head and moved his face close to hers. Here's the quick version. Yondaime and the rest of these morons were far too weak to stand up against the nine-tailed fox. He paused for a moment when he noticed that her mouth was wide open, probably from the mention that the fourth was too weak to defeat the fox. He reached over and closed her mouth for her. Don't gawk like that. Makes you look like a fish. Anyway, like I was saying, the fourth couldn't defeat the demon, so they decided to sacrifice a small child. They sealed it into that child. And if that wasn't enough, the child had to deal with the fact that everyone in the village hated him for something that he didn't even control. He paused for a moment to look at Sakura. She still looked terrified. 12 years later, that child makes a deal with the third Hokage. If he becomes a Chunin, then he gets to leave the village permanently if he so wishes. So, help me win this exam, and I'll leave forever. Yes. Naruto sighed. You do know I can easily kill you right now, right? Sakura paled, but managed a small nod. Then why don't I? Sakura slowly shook her head, indicating that she didn't know. Because I don't want to, Naruto said simply. No reason to kill you. Sakura sighed at this. Whether you believe that I'm Naruto or the Kyuubi is your own damn business. I really don't give a damn. Naruto muttered. Alright, story time's over. Next time I'll tell you how I received the talked. 1 Hokage, 3 male clan heads, 20 bottles of sake, and 3 hours later, before they finally asked a woman to explain it to me, she did it in like 5 minutes. Are men pathetic or what? Naruto heard laughing in his head. Where's Sasuke? Sakura gestured to a direction, obviously still terrified. Naruto walked over there. Hours later, Sakura was sitting next to Sasuke's prone body. She was thinking about Naruto. He's the demon fox. No, wait. He's just the vessel. I don't know. Why didn't they tell us about this? Why did they lie to us? Sakura heard something appear. It was a squirrel running towards one of her hidden traps. She threw a kunai in front of it, sending it running away. I have to protect Sasuke-kun until Naruto comes back. Useless little girl. Sakura turned towards the voice to see the 3 sound neens. Naruto. Naruto was jumping from tree to tree. The grass neen that Sasuke was fighting must have been this Orochimaru person that the second examiner mentioned about. Sakura said that the grass nin slapped our scroll away when Sasuke had attempted to give it to her. It only makes sense that it would be Orochimaru. What did he want? Naruto was looking around. Their food supplies were low, and he decided to try and find some fruit. He was also hopping to find some moon leaves for a second bracelet. He had no luck. He heard what sounded like an explosion. He turned around to face the direction. Damn it, that sounds like the direction where Sakura and Sasuke are. Naruto launched himself. Team 7's hiding spot. Naruto reached a tree that was close to the clearing. Naruto peered inside the clearing. He saw Team 10, Ino, Shikamaru, and Chuji, the sound team. That freak who was talking to the Tull, and Sakura, who now had short hair. The sound girl, Ino, Chuji, the green-clad ninja, and the sound girl were all down. Naruto did the necessary hand seals. Let's see how that freak likes this. Dosu was closing in on Sakura, ready to kill the young girl. Suddenly something exploded from the ground and latched right onto his groin. Dosu's eyes widened and he let out a blood-curdling scream. Ahhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhh for the sound nin. The latter two experiencing the same pain from Ino almost on a daily basis. Naruto jumped into the clearing right behind Zaku, smirking as his plant disabled Dosu. Zaku turned toward Naruto and glared. They all suddenly felt something. They turned to see a Hyuga and a girl with two buns up in the trees. Zaku looked around, but then suddenly felt something behind him. He turned to see Sasuke, glowing purple, with black, flame-like, tattoos all over his body. Sasuke growled, "You're hurt, Sakura. Who did that to you?" Sakura was terrified again. "What kind of group am I in?" Zaku laughed. "It was me." Sasuke appeared behind Zao. "You're pretty proud of these arms, aren't you?" He grabbed both of Zaku's arms and put his foot on his back and started pushing. "Stop." Crack. Both Zaku's arms broke. Sasuke let Zaku go, letting the boy slump on the ground. He turned around to see Dosu get back up. Sasuke smirked and walked towards the sound nin, when suddenly he felt two pairs of arms wrap around him. "Please don't, please don't." Seeing Sakura's tear-stricken face made Sasuke revert back to normal. Dosu pulled out a heaven scroll. "Let us go, and you can have the scroll." "We already have that scroll," thought Naruto. "Oh well, couldn't hurt to have two. Put it down and leave." Dosu turned towards Naruto and growled, "I won't be forgetting you. We'll meet again." He dropped the scroll, grabbed Kin and Zaku, and left. Naruto picked up the scroll. He turned to see Team 10 up again, checking each other for serious injury. Sakura was looking over Sasuke, who seemed to be brooding, and the two nins who appeared recently seemed to be checking out bushy brows. "Lee, you idiot. You need to be careful," scolded to Hyuga. "Sorry, Niji, sorry, Tenten." Lee started checking his pockets and slightly pulled out an earth scroll. Naruto's eyes widened slightly. An earth scroll. But they wouldn't, worth a shot. Naruto mused as he walked over to Lee's group. "Hey Lee, that earth scroll, it's not the only one you got, is it?" Team Guy turned towards Naruto. "How did you know that?" muttered Lee, before being jabbed by Niji. "What's it to you?" Naruto smiled. "I have 2 heaven scrolls. You have 2 earth scrolls. We trade one. We both leave happy." Niji glared and smirked. "And what if I just defeat you and take both your scrolls?" "You don't seem like the type to waste energy, not without it being necessary," Naruto replied. Niji smirked. "Fine." Naruto and Niji traded a scroll. Lee got up. "How did you know that we had 2 earth scrolls?" Naruto's smile widened. "Simple, that guy," pointing to Niji, "seems an awful lot like that guy," pointing to Sasuke, "and that guy," pointing once again to Sasuke, "would never trust you," pointing to Rock Lee, with his team scroll, unless they had an extra. With that, Naruto walked away. Lee looked confused. Tintin glared at Naruto, and Niji seemed to be smirking. Naruto returned to his team, holding both scrolls. "We're done. Let's get to that tower." The next day, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were standing outside of the tower, just in time they were almost out of time. All 3 of them walked in. "Finally, just a few more tests and I'll be free." A chance to fight more foes, to test how far I've come. Sakura was the only one not cheerful. Naruto has a demon in him, and Sasuke has been cursed by that grass nin. What kind of situation am I in? Chapter 8. The Preliminaries. Sure Renden, Lion Combo. Sasuke started performing a complicated aerial combo on Yoroi, doing a series of powerful kicks, which little by little is sending Yoroi towards the ground. He finishes the combo with one kick, which slams the older ninja against the arena floor. Gekohei raises his right arm. The winner of the first match is Sasuke Uchiha. This caused a series of loud cheers from certain people in this crowd, Sakura and Ino. Sasuke made his way back up the stands, but was intercepted by his sensei. "Let's go, Sasuke." Sasuke nodded towards his sensei, and the two disappeared. Unseen by everyone, sans the Hokage, the Jounin sensei of the sound team, also disappeared. Naruto stared at the board, waiting for his name to be called. Though he would never admit it or show it, he was anxious to fight. Sakura looked at the board, terrified of what they would reveal. She was even more horrified by her teammate. It took every ounce of her willpower to stop herself from yelling out that Naruto had the QB sealed inside of him. She probably would have mentioned it to Sasuke, but Naruto was always around, and she never got any time alone with the Uchiha. Right now, all she wanted to do was have a long talk with either the third or with Kakashi. But first she had to deal with the problem of getting through her match alive. Why do I have to be so weak? The board stopped. "No," moaned an anxious Rock Lee, who was not only anxious to fight, but was making sure that everyone knew that he was anxious to fight. HN. Shino Aburame versus Choji Akimichi. Somewhere in the tower. Fujihoin, evil sealing method, yelled the copy ninja as the seals written on the floor and on Sasuke's body started crawling towards the cursed seal. The markings made a circle around the cursed seal. All the while, Sasuke was writhing and howling in pain. When it finally stopped, Sasuke was on the floor, unconscious. There, that should prevent the cursed seal from taking control of you again. But in the end, it'll all depend on your willpower, Sasuke. "Very good, Kakashi, but that won't last long," spoke a voice from the shadows. Kakashi snapped in the direction of the voice and glared into the shadows. "Who's there?"